Part 86. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shuigan Xiao. Chapter 882. The moment Su Tong finished speaking, he closed the door directly. Dezwai, who had been shut up for a long time, stared at Su Tong's door with his eyes blinking, and then looked at the backs of the two men not far away. His already bright red eyeballs gradually began to turn red and hot. The huge body began to twist and squeeze out of the door. It was only at this moment that Su Tong could clearly see the whole face of this guy. His body was as huge as an earthworm. It was hard for Kuroishi Taro and the two who were walking in front not to notice it. When they saw such a huge monster in front of them, they were inevitably a little scared. It seems that the bigger the resentment demon's body is, the more terrifying its strength is. This was the first time they had seen such a big resentful demon. But what does it mean for the other party to come out at this time? Are you here to help them? This idea already had a clear answer when the big mouth opened its huge bloody mouth. Look, am I beautiful? Facing Big Mouth's question, Kuroishi Taro and Shushita Akamoto looked at each other and thought to themselves, you have a beautiful idea. However, in order not to anger the other party, Kuroishi Taro hesitated again and said against his will, you are the most beautiful lady I have ever seen. I thought that my words would please the other party, but who knew that the dense eyes on the big mouth's head quickly focused on Kuroishi Taro, and the big mouth let out an angry roar, but some people say that you are better than I'm beautiful. Which evil person said this? But it seems to be the case. You are more beautiful than me. Big Mouth's voice suddenly became harsh, and the densely packed red eyeballs oozed terrifying murderous aura. The huge body twisted in the corridor and rushed towards the two of them. The oncoming pressure suddenly made Akamoto and Akamoto under the tree gasp in their hearts and screamed, block it. As he spoke, the two Shikigami beside him quickly stood in front of them. Phaeton Wu, Kotaro. These two Shikigami are enough to rank in the top 100 among many Shikigami. One attack and one defense between them are enough to easily kill Taoist masters. Phaeton Wu waved the long sail in his hand, and the complex purple barrier quickly blocked the corridor in front of him. In Kotaro's hand, he raised a long spear. The gun's body was filled with light, and it actually gave birth to wisps of power of faith. However, judging from such dazzling colors, it was clear that this power of faith was mixed with too many desires. Think about it, although there are many, they are not pure. Eep! 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 The big mouth screamed and the speed suddenly increased, and the huge body hit the barrier. Boom! The spell on the barrier was activated, and a large amount of lightning surged out, causing Dezwai's body to tremble violently. Ha! At this moment, Kotaro stabbed with a spear in his hand, and the spear burning with the fire of faith easily penetrated Dezwai's body with almost no effort. The huge pain caused Dezwai to twist his bloated body painfully and hit the wall of the corridor. The whole building seemed to collapse for a moment. Now the residents on the other floors started to get excited, and within a moment, the whole building was in chaos with ghosts, cries, and howls. Asshole! What are you doing? Sakuragi Simei's curses came from Akamoto's team channel under the tree. Akamoto, under the tree, was also aggrieved, we didn't do anything, and a resentful demon attacked us like crazy. Kill him quickly, or everyone will be dead. Sakuragi Simei was really anxious this time. They set traps around them this time, just waiting for Su Tong to appear and give him a fatal blow. But now there was a sudden riot in this building, and those resentful demons seemed to be stimulated, and they began to run rampant. Sakuragi and others' plans were suddenly shattered. Seeing that they were trapped by these resentful demons, their hearts instantly greetings to Akamoto's mother under the tree. Hearing Sakuragi Simei's curse, Shuxia Akamoto did not dare to be careless. He took out a jade tube from the props book, scratched his finger and quickly touched the mark on it, and recited the incantation, the art of psychic 800 shrine. Kaka kaka. With a tearing sound, the void around Akamoto exploded under the tree, and a huge torii gate rose from the void. The so-called torii is not a residence, but a portal. Stepping into the torii means entering the divine realm. After the torii, a majestic palace emerged behind him, which was the shrine where the god of heaven was rumored to live. Tengu-sama, please help me. Under the tree, Akamoto pulled out a short knife from his waist, slashed his abdomen, cut off a section of his small intestine as a sacrifice, and threw it into the divine door behind him. Along with the small intestine as a sacrifice, a huge white shadow appeared behind the divine gate and leaped out of the torii. What is that? Sutong couldn't help but widen his eyes when he saw a white dog as big as a calf through the mirror. The white dog came out of nowhere, and Big Mouth's stupid body couldn't even dodge. With a burst of strong divine power, he raised his sharp claws and slapped Big Mouth on the head. Puff. In a scene like tofu hitting a stone, Big Mouth's head was suddenly smashed into pieces. Solved. Sutong, who was hiding in the room and using the mirror to observe, was immediately disappointed when he saw this scene. He thought how powerful this Big Mouth monster would be, but he didn't expect that the other party just summoned an inferior god and killed him directly. He was really disappointed. Wait, something's wrong. At this time, Sutong suddenly discovered a strange place. The resentful demons who had blocked the door of Guzibai's room actually began to retreat quietly at this time, and even quietly hid in the door to the side. In the room. This discovery made Sutong keenly aware that perhaps the horror of Big Mouth had not yet truly been revealed. Kuroishi Taro and Shushita Akamoto were enjoying the joy of victory and did not notice that the resentful demons behind them had disappeared without a trace. TCH, it scared me. I think it's just a bit bigger, and its strength isn't that great. Taro Kuroishi looked at the huge corpse in front of him and couldn't help but ridicule him. However, he turned around and gave a thumbs up to Akamoto under the tree next to him, praising, "Sir, you can even summon the legendary Tengu." It was a real eye-opener for me. Even though he knows that the other person is complimenting him, Shuxia Akamoto still has a look of pride on his face. However, just when he was about to invite the White Wolf Tengu back. Ouch! Suddenly, the White Wolf Tengu in front of him let out a painful wail, and his originally white claws suddenly turned black. What's going on? Seeing the White Wolf Tengu whine in pain, Akamoto was shocked under the tree. He saw that after the black blood from the Big Mouth was stained on the White Wolf Tengu's body, the White Wolf Tengu's white body began to move rapidly. Rot. What was even weirder was that Big Mouth's corpse began to dissolve rapidly, with a steady stream of black liquid overflowing from its flesh and blood. These black liquids, exuding astonishing resentment, surged up like a tide and quickly rushed towards the White Wolf Tengu. The White Wolf Tengu sensed the danger and wanted to dodge, but the space in the corridor was too narrow for it to move at all. It could only rely on the gem on its chest to emit white light in order to isolate the black blood. Open. But the White Wolf Tengu still underestimated the horror of these black bloods. I saw the black blood squirming and twisting, letting out a desperate scream, carrying huge resentment, and viciously smashed the White Wolf Tengu's body to the ground. Click. A sound similar to that of glass exploding was heard, and the gem on the White Wolf Tengu's chest instantly shattered, and the divine light protecting the body dimmed in an instant. Not good. When Shushita Akamoto saw this scene, he quickly controlled the two Shikigami to help, but it was already too late. Countless amounts of black blood seeped into the White Wolf Tengu's body, causing the White Wolf Tengu to cry out in despair. Almost instantly, the black blood penetrated into the White Wolf Tengu's body, and the white sacred hair fell off at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Tengu's skin began to rot, exposing its black bones. When the guy stood up again, he was no longer the White Wolf Tengu that Akamoto was familiar with under the tree, but a complete monster. Black blood flows in the black bones, and pure killing intent exudes from the whole body. This is the really scary thing about Big Mouth. Her blood can taint any resentful demon, and even the gods will find it a terrible curse. The strength of the white wolf Tengu should actually be much more than that, but it underestimated the big mouth, and even ignored that the terrain and environment where it was located were completely unsuitable for its size. Kakaka. After the defilement of the white wolf Tengu, 2 sarcomas were drilled out of the deep eye sockets, and then the sarcomas split open, revealing densely packed eyes. Run. Seeing this scene, Akamoto's scalp went numb under the tree. He immediately turned around and ran away without thinking. On the side, Taro Kuroishi was a little slow to react. Seeing the dark claws tearing at him, he could only activate the prop cards on his body frantically at any cost, intending to fight hard. But what he didn't expect was that the expected terrifying collision did not come. Instead, a golden light suddenly flashed on his body, protecting him firmly. Boom! The sharp claws slapped on it, making a dull buzzing sound. Seeing this, Taro Kuroishi looked blankly at his chest and saw an amulet hanging on his chest, emitting a peaceful Buddha light. Authentic amulet. It is rumored that the Dharma protecting amulet written by Ji Unzhen has great Buddhist efficacy. When it is attacked by evil and fatally injured, the golden light of Dharma in the amulet will be stimulated. Note, this item cannot be authenticated, you can only try it yourself. If it is a fake, you will be compensated 10 times. Immediately, Kuroishi Taro clasped his hands together and felt Amitabha in his heart. He didn't expect that in the last script world, it was true that he accidentally obtained the amulet. The big mouth encountered the Buddha's light, as if it had encountered a nemesis. After quickly retracting its claws, it turned around and ran straight towards Akamoto under the tree. At this time, Taro Kuroishi breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it is Buddha's blessing. As he spoke, he did not forget to clasp his hands and recite Amitabha silently. However, as soon as Kuroishi Taro finished speaking, he heard a sneer in his ears, Amitabha, you have no destiny with my Buddha. Who? Taro Kuroishi opened his eyes and saw a dazzling white rainbow coming in front of him. Su Tongren's sword was like lightning. With his feet shrunk to an inch, he was instantly close to Taro Kuroishi. Yes. When he saw the face of the visitor clearly, Taro Kuroishi's pupils tightened, and there was only one word in his mind, escape. But this awareness only appeared in my mind for a moment, and the world was already spinning in front of me. Puff. Blood spattered on the wall. Looking at the headless corpse on the ground, Su Tong thought in his mind, another one. Unfortunately, the remaining one ran quite fast. The appearance of Big Mouth disrupted his original plan. But it did save me a lot of effort. Sure enough, with good luck, there are divine assists everywhere. Su Tong put away the prop book on Taro Kuroishi's body and walked quickly to the room where Guzibai and others were. Looking at the door in front of him, Su Tong hesitated for a moment, then suppressed the anger in his heart. He put away the pure yang sword in his hand, stretched out 2 fingers, raised the corners of his mouth, and put on a sincere smile. Then he reached out and knocked on the door. Allied players cannot hurt each other. If you want to deal with them, it seems that you need to use external force. Open the door, it's me. Hearing Su Tong's voice outside the door, Guzibai didn't know what was going on for a moment, so he opened the door a crack. When he saw that it was Su Tong, he quickly opened the door. The 3 iron hands were also shocked when they saw this. Unexpectedly, the person who came to the door was not the Japanese player in the plan, but Su Tong. For a moment, the 2 of them glared fiercely at the back of the hill, and Tai Shao hurriedly approached him, it's really you. We just said we would meet you when it's safe. I don't know if it was because of a guilty conscience, but Tai Shao had a forced smile on his face. Call. However, to Tai Shao's surprise, Su Tong came forward and gave him a big hug. He patted Tai Shao on the shoulder excitedly and said, just hope you're okay. I'm almost worried about you. Su Tong's enthusiasm not only did not make Tai Xiao relax, but his heart suddenly became even more uncomfortable. "Come in first, it's not safe outside." Tai hand pulled Su Tong through the door, but Su Tong refused. "No, I just saw a sneaky Japs player outside. They seem to be manipulating those resentful demons to come to you. Fortunately, something happened to them, otherwise they wouldn't be able to save you." Su Tong held up his iron hand and walked out. Tai Xiao wanted to resist, but Su Tong's strength was too great and he couldn't help him at all. He didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional. When Su Tong pulled Tai Xiao out of the room, Gu Zibai crossed his body to block it out. In front of He Xiaoshan, the distance between the two and Tai Xiao was invisibly widened. When they walked out of the room, they glanced at Taro Kuroishi's body. After Tai Xiao's mouth twitched a few times, he could only bite the bullet and walk down with Su Tong. "Boy team, are we going downstairs?" Tai Xiao watched Su Tong lead them down step by step and said quickly, "The first floor seems to be very dangerous. How about we go to the fourth floor to meet your teammates first?" Faced with Tai Xiao's suggestion, Su Tong pulled him downstairs without looking back and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I found a super safe place." "Sorry," Luoyang said, "that the weather will change if it changes. I accidentally caught a bad cold and my status is not online. I will update it today. I will make it up when I get better." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 884. Safe Place. The three Iron Hands looked at each other. Just as the three of them were hesitating, the sound of "Papa Papa" footsteps suddenly came from the corridor. The sound seemed to be coming towards them, very fast. If you listen carefully, you can even hear waves of low whispers. "Am I beautiful? Am I beautiful? That monster is back, let's go." Su Tong didn't care so much now and pulled Gu Zibai downstairs. Upon seeing this, the three Iron Hands didn't dare to stay any longer, so they could only run downstairs. Boom! There was a loud bang in the whole building, and the big mouth that swallowed up the white wolf Tengu seemed to become even more terrifying. Part of the divinity of the white wave Tengu made it seem to have completely gotten rid of the constraints of the rules of the cave, and began to become more and more crazy. Ignoring the constraints of the rules, he tore apart the room Su Tong was in with a slap. When he saw that the room was empty and there was no one around, Big Mouth began to destroy everything around him crazily, and then started to destroy everything around him. The room was searched. From time to time, there were loud slamming sounds in the corridor, and the residents hiding in other rooms also suffered instant disaster. Black liquid seeped out of Big Mouth's body and penetrated into the room on the third floor. Some unlucky ones were directly swallowed by the black liquid and became part of Big Mouth's body. As more and more resentful demons were devoured by it, the black blood began to boil, emitting a stream of black smoke, and faces emerged in the smoke to form a picture. These scenes turned out to be the memories of those resentful demons. If Su Tong can still watch here, he will definitely see that the memories retained deep in the hearts of these already chaotic resentful demons are not so beautiful. For example, the woman who loved to torture cats was originally just an actress, but was treated as a plaything by her boss and given to the warlord. She finally escaped from the warlord and came to the new territories to survive. Unexpectedly, she was dragged to Kowloon City by people from the society. Bago in the village. What's even more perverted is that in order to make her surrender, the old madam not only broke one of her legs, but also tortured her in different ways every day. Gradually the woman became numb. After picking up customers every day, the only thing that can make her relax is holding the stray cat she picked up. She originally thought that this cat would accompany her, but one day, the white cat suddenly convulsed her and scratched her face. She was angry. Anger like never before. Even if the unscrupulous boss gave it to a warlord, even if the old madam broke her leg and was forced to become Bago, she accepted it. The biggest complaint is just one sentence before falling asleep in the dead of night: "This is life." But when the cat she had fed for so long would attack her and take away the face she relied on for her last livelihood, the woman completely collapsed. He drowned the white cat in his hand and chopped its body into pieces. From then on, when this woman saw cats, she would try her best to kill them. Except for this woman, including the neighbors Su Tong had seen before, everyone had unforgettable hatred hidden deep in their hearts. When they were alive, they were at the bottom, but after their souls were polluted by the cave, this hatred became the source of their strength. At this moment, all the hatred was absorbed by the big mouth and became a part of it, making it larger and larger. The black liquid suddenly began to seep into other floors. Huge resentment, mixed with boundless resentment, seeped out from the gaps in the floor. Some resentful demons started to go crazy just by smelling this smell. Now not only the residents on the third floor began to run away crazily, but the fourth, fifth, and second floors also began to become chaotic. This scene is probably something that no one expected. "Boss, what's going on outside? It's all a mess." Gao Zhou and Chang Wogu also panicked. There was complete chaos outside. The residents who had been staying at home seemed to have been stimulated and began to attack other residents crazily. "Everyone, find a way to get to the first floor, quickly." Su Tong also didn't expect that with just one sentence, the resentment in the entire Kowloon walled city would boil. There are so many resentful demons. When I want to kill them, I can only ask everyone to gather together and rectify their strength to kill them all. Kill, kill, kill. In the corridor on the second floor, a man covered in blood stood in front of them. The man's abdomen had swelled like a huge balloon, and human faces and handprints were squirming under his skin. In the palm stained with blood, he held a sledgehammer wrapped with human spine and skull. Blood dripped from the hammerhead, exuding a disgusting smell of blood. Seeing Su Tong and others coming down the stairs, the man let out an excited scream, waved the hammer in his hand, and rushed towards Su Tong. Black flames ignited in his eyes, like a flower of evil blooming in the depths of despair. All kinds of negative resentment twisted and screamed, and the huge skull hammer rolled up a terrifying curse and killing storm in the air. Tai Xiao and others' expressions changed slightly, and they activated the abilities of the prop cards to prepare for a hard resistance. Only Su Tong stepped forward instead, wielding the Pure Yang sword with wisps of Pure Yang sword chi, combined with Tai Chi swordsmanship, and cleverly directed the power of the hammer to the stairs aside. At the same time, the other hand raised his hand and there was a Yanshu talisman. Dazzling thunder burst out from the palm of his hand, directly exploding the man's chest and sending him flying. Tai Xiao and others knew that Su Tong was very powerful. Guo Xiang said more than once in the team that this person had amazing potential and had the strength to enter the core of Momin. They only thought that Guo Xiang was exaggerating, but when they actually saw Su Tong take action, they deeply felt how overwhelming the strength was. "Let's go." Su Tong did not get entangled with this grudge demon, because the grudge demons in the corridor on the second floor had begun to move towards them, and their numbers were increasing, making people's scalp numb just by looking at them. Even if he ran downstairs with everyone. As they stepped downstairs, they heard a click, sound, and broken glass and doors and windows fell from upstairs. Then some resentful demons jumped down from upstairs and smashed into the middle courtyard of the walled city. Those resentful demons who fell to the ground first got up and quickly began to attack other resentful demons. Some weak resentful demons just jumped down from the stairs, but the big ones on the ground suddenly opened their bloody mouths and killed them in one bite. Swallow it in. Some resentful demons used the impact of falling from a high place to directly smash the resentful demons below into pieces, devouring the opponent's flesh and blood with big mouthfuls. A big fight, just like when these souls first came to the cave. Only by devouring enough souls and becoming strong enough can they continue to survive. As for the weak, they can only become part of other resentful demons. Perhaps in the minds of these resentful demons, if you want peace, you can only become stronger. As long as everyone is strong enough, you can coexist peacefully. How many neighbors are left in the end is another matter. What should we do? Do we want to get out now? Looking at the chaos in front of them, a group of people hid in the corner under the stairs. Seeing the turmoil getting bigger and bigger, Iron Hand was also afraid. They reached a mutual aid agreement with the Japanese society, but these monsters would not abide by the rules. Su Tong glanced sideways at Tai Xiao, thought for a while and said, "Wait and see." It's not that he doesn't know these people's little thoughts, but at this time, he doesn't want to take off the last layer of fig leaf. Don't worry, as long as we get to that place, we will be completely safe. Su Tong once again emphasized the so-called mysterious and safe place. The three Iron Hands were suspicious, but seeing that the confidence in Su Tong's eyes did not seem to be fake, Xiao Shan couldn't help but asked, "Where is it?" Don't forget, in addition to these resentful demons, our opponents also have their Japs and players here, so even if the resentful demons can't get in, the players can get in. Su Tong waited for Xiao Shan to speak, but did not answer immediately, but looked a little embarrassed. Gu Zibai saw his troubled expression. As a teammate for a long time, Su Tong immediately understood and cooperated without Su Tong speaking in the team channel. "Head, where is this place?" With Gu Zibai's assistance, Su Tong finally spoke. His expression was extremely mysterious, and his deep eyes made everyone feel Su Tong's caution. He only heard him slowly utter one word, "Door. Door." Everyone looked at each other. Su Tong explained to them the secret of that door. The gods in the shrines were originally looking for that door. In order to find this door, they even stole the dragon beads hidden in Zhuolong Mountain. But they could never find this door. Unfortunately, they just happened to find the location of this door. As long as they found this door, they could advance, attack, retreat or defend, so there was no need to worry. Xiaoshan and the others listened carefully, and their hearts suddenly filled with panic, because he also knew something about the door. He didn't know more, but Mansai Musashi Genkaku made Dongtian connect with reality, and he seemed to be looking for a door. Could it be that the door Su Tong mentioned was the door Mansai Musashi Genka was looking for? Dong dong dong. Suddenly there was a loud buzzing sound, which made many resentful demons slow down their actions. "It's a devil." Gu Zibai looked up and saw Sakuragi Sime and Akekamaru hiding on the second-floor window. The two men, one on the left and one on the right, were holding watch gongs in their hands and beating them continuously. With each blow, the surrounding resentful demons' minds became more confused, as if there was a sound echoing in their minds through gongs and drums. He, even though the plan has gone a little awry, as long as you show up, you won't be able to escape death. Sakuragi Sime stared at the hiding place of Su Tong and others, with a sinister smile on his lips. The original plan was to let Shuxia and Haishi serve as bait. As long as they lure Su Tong out, they would control all the resentful demons to attack Su Tong. Although the plan went awry, fortunately, everything went smoothly. With Xiaoshan as the insider following him, the whereabouts of Su Tong and others were exposed. "Kill him." A pair of scarlet eyes quietly opened in the darkness, and the cold eyes were like the emperor who ruled the world, appearing in the minds of the resentful demons, giving orders that they could not disobey. The resentful demons on the ground stopped fighting each other, and instead stared at the hiding place of Su Tong and others, turned around and rushed towards them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 885. A swarm of resentful demons swarmed over, smashing the walls of the building and rushing towards them. The terrifying resentment gathered into a ball, forming a terrible curse and bombarding everyone. Spread. Gu Zibai jumped up in the air, while Su Tong quickly dodged to the other side of the corridor. Tai Xiao and the others reacted equally quickly. As the three of them flew back, a layer of cyan shield appeared in front of them, blocking most of the curse. This is their team skill, as the silver team skill Guardian's Shield. A layer of shield can be activated to resist all damaging attacks. The more team members participate in activating the shield, the more powerful the shield will be. There are only 3 of them now, but the shield's effect has been able to block most of the curse attacks. If it weren't for the accident that happened in the cave last time, which caused Guo Xiang and Dibo to have an accident, the 5 of them could have escaped unscathed by relying on this skill. Quick, separate from them. Tai Xiao's face was ashen. These monsters didn't care about the agreement they had with the Japanese devils. They attacked without distinguishing between friend and foe. Fortunately, the target of these monsters was Su Tong. As long as they kept a distance from him, their safety could be guaranteed. But Tai Xiao obviously thought of things too simply. A large number of resentful demons swarmed up, and there were always some who couldn't get enough to eat. They turned around and focused their attention on the 3 iron hands. Their minds only had destruction and killing, but no matter what the agreement was, they immediately turned their spearhead and rushed towards the 3 of them. When Sakuragi Sime and several other Japanese players saw this, they were naturally happy to see it. They could not attack each other, but if these guys died in the hands of the resentful demon, it would be none of their business. Sakuragi, I have important news about the door. Seeing these grievances coming up like crazy, Xiaoshan knew that the other party was happy to see his success, so he immediately spoke. Sakuragi was shocked when he heard this. After thinking about it again and again, he immediately raised the gong in his hand and controlled the resentful demons to stop attacking Tai Xiao and others, and instead killed Gu Zibai, who was standing aside. The 3 of them also took this opportunity and fled the scene. Su Tong saw this scene from a distance, but he didn't care. The effect he wanted had already spread, and that was his last trump card. It just depended on who would step on this trap. War. Gu Zibai jumped in the lead, his martial arts will penetrated his whole body, he held Wu Go tightly with both hands, his eyes closed for a moment, and then opened violently, his eyes were filled with nothingness and chaos. Waving the Wu Go in his hand, the 2 Wu Go Lingshuang Hanjiao condensed into a substance, which was more than 10 feet wide and 10 meters long, tearing apart the space and killing directly. Some resentful demons were unable to dodge and were cut in half on the spot. This is no longer a simple martial arts, nor is it a skill of some kind of prop card, or a mysterious spell. It is a kind of power that is completely sublimated after the combination of martial arts and one's own will. The hook is like frost, torn and laid out like a river of stars in the sky. When Su Tong saw this, he couldn't help being surprised at Gu Zibai's strength, but also very pleased. Although Gu Zibai relied on the large number of script points he gave him to be able to break through to such an astonishing level of strength in a short period of time. But this is also closely related to his superb martial arts talent. If it weren't for Gu Zibai's simplicity in martial arts, it would be impossible for anyone else to reach such a level. Apart from admiring it, Su Tong was also under a lot of pressure. Those powerful resentful demons rushed towards him like crazy, and all kinds of curses seemed to be raining down on him. Su Tong did not choose to be tough. While summoning the Xianyuan shield, he continued to use thunder to knock away the approaching resentful demons. As for those curses, they suddenly fell apart when they approached Su Tong. Although his luck has begun to decline, the figures of the 3 heavenly officials sit firmly in the middle, and no evil and evil magic can shake it. At this time, Su Tong suddenly felt something in his heart. He looked up and saw a man standing on the 3rd floor, holding a longbow and pointing it at him. But the strange thing is that although the longbow is under the full moon, no arrows are seen. Bump. Seeing that Su Tong noticed it, the other party immediately let go of the bowstring in his hand. With a roar like thunder, the sky and earth suddenly lost all colors, leaving only black and white. The whistling sound that broke through the sky was even more shocking. Although the invisible arrow cannot be seen or touched, it is invisible and shadowless, which makes it even more terrifying. The illusion of black and white is even more fascinating. It rotates at an extremely fast but slow speed. As the world spins, all the black and white colors turn into two twisted yin and yang fish, intertwined with each other, forming a point makes all one's heart and thoughts go towards that point. Some resentful demons were accidentally injured by this arrow. The resentment on their bodies and the obsession in their minds were completely attracted by the black and white colors. Their consciousness was blurred for an instant, and they were completely wiped out in the yin and yang. Fortunately, Su Tong noticed it in time, stabilized his mind, summoned the pure yang sword, and struck into the air with a fire attack. Boom! Huge flames exploded in mid-air, and the terrifying high temperature instantly caused these resentful demons to scream in pain. But the fire seemed to have encountered some obstacle in mid-air. The fire seemed to be flowing water swirling between yin and yang, eventually consuming each other's yin and yang and finally disappearing. What an amazing archery skill! I once read in a book that Ji Chang learned archery, and his arrow path was perfect, and he hit the target without an arrow. This man's archery skills were also at the pinnacle. The arrows he shot had lost their shape and could even be shot. It runs through a person's will and destiny. Among the Japanese players, apart from Akimaru and Sakuragi Sime, there are obviously masters who are well hidden. I am afraid that my archery skills are not as good as those of the other party, but since you use invisible arrows, then I will use visible arrows to defeat you. This thought suddenly occurred. Su Tong took out a long bow from the props book. It was the big rhinoceros bow given to him by his master. He held the long bow in his hand, and took another arrow in his hand. The red arrow body had golden phoenix feathers on it. 3 divine arrows, Pajun, Xiaotian, and Lonke. And this divine arrow is exactly the dragon bird arrow among them. Dragon bird arrow. Passive skill, peck to kill. It consumes 3000 script points and launches a killing attack on the target, ignoring the target's own armor and magic weapon defense, and bursting out with unprecedented high penetrating damage. Raising his bow and knocking an arrow, Su Tong's muscles bulged in his arms and he aimed the arrow at the figure on the 3rd floor. When Toranashuk saw that Su Tong actually wanted to fight with him, there was a sarcastic look in his eyes. Perhaps his combat prowess is far from being comparable to that of Su Tong, but when it comes to archery, he uses arrows to enter the Tao, and his attainments in archery are already unparalleled in the world. In the last script world, he even killed Nasu Yuichi, the most famous archer of Japan, with 1 arrow. Neither Sakuragi Sime nor Akimaru dared to resist their own archery skills. He has always hidden his identity and refused to be exposed easily, which was why Sakuragi and others used him as their trump card. Occupying the geographical advantage at this moment, Su Tong could not rise into the air. He was condescending and completely took the initiative. Therefore, when I saw Su Tong refusing to dodge and trying to fight him with arrows, I was not surprised but happy. Seek death. He immediately fired his bows at the same time, even burning a large amount of script points, making the long bow in his hand emit a clanging killing intent. Boom! The two of them fired arrows at the same time. Before the arrow came out, the explosion of the bowstring made everyone look in pain. His ears were buzzing, and a crack appeared in the void before his eyes. The resentment demons caught in the middle below were even worse. Under this huge roar, many resentment demons were shaken to pieces on the spot. The resentful demon who managed to survive has not yet been able to recover from the pain. The whole cave sky suddenly sank. Everyone felt a suffocating sense of oppression in their hearts. The invisible arrow, carrying the power of heaven and earth, formed an invisible force, but it was so powerful that it was suffocating, as if it was going to flatten everything in front of it. Go to hell. Sakuragi, who was hiding on the second floor, had red eyes. Although he knew there was little hope, he still hoped that this arrow could kill Sutong, even if he was seriously injured. But when the crimson arrow from Sutong's bow flew out, this wish was obviously crushed ruthlessly in an instant. Chiang, a phoenix roared into the sky. At this moment, whether it was Mansai Musashi Gen who was hiding underground or Chen Wangshen who was living in the temple, their hearts tightened. An unprecedented feeling came over them, making them all feel a great threat. The arrow shot out is like a scarlet bird, harvesting endless lives while flying. The arrows flew past, and the powerful resentful demons in front of them suddenly turned into ashes, followed by an even more terrifying scene. Click. There was a harsh explosion, and countless cracks opened in the air like spider webs. The invisible arrow was pierced directly in an instant. Impossible. Toranishuk's pupils tightened, looking at the arrows that were speeding towards him. He could not help but feel a burst of despair in his heart. He couldn't understand that his invisible arrows were already the best in the world. Destroyed by power. But under this vermilion arrow, it was pierced directly, as if what pierced was not the arrow he shot, but his belief in the arrow path and the power he had pursued throughout his life. Run! Sakuragi Sime screamed, but there was no time. He could only turn around and throw himself into the corridor on the second floor. In an instant, a terrifying force was wiped out behind him. It was only when Sakuragi Sime looked back that he suddenly discovered that most of the third floor had been penetrated. However, where Toranishuk originally stood, his figure was no longer there. Only a pair of boots-wearing feet were still standing. Land. When he looked again, he found that the scarlet arrow was stuck in a concrete pillar. Seeing this, Sakuragi Kingming's pupils tightened, and he simply jumped up, trying to snatch the arrow first. But what he didn't expect was that there was a person who moved faster than him, and he saw 5 furry balls quietly appearing in front of him, holding up the arrows with their round bodies, and then disappeared. Seeing those 5 furry balls, Sakuragi Sime was stunned for a moment. He seemed to have seen this thing before. It seemed to be a small thing that the Onmyoji temple researched using the corpse of an ancient god. Why was it here? Before Sakuragi Sime could figure out what was going on, the light behind him suddenly dimmed, and a huge figure suddenly stood behind him. The fat black man sitting cross-legged on a bunch of green tentacles pointed at Sakuragi Sime. "Brother, it's him, it's him. I saw this little baga with my own eyes, lying on the bed with his sister-in-law, playing many tricks." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 886. What does it mean to rely on the power of others, and what does it mean to stir up trouble? Li Bo was playing it clearly. Putting his hands on his hips and glaring angrily, he pointed at Sakuragi Sime, who still didn't understand what was going on, and cursed, "This little baga takes advantage of you not being at home to have an affair with your sister-in-law, and he often says, even if it's you I dare to play in front of you even after I come back, my conscience is very bad." The giant man under Li Bo's crotch was so angry. Both of his eyes were red, and the resentment on his body became more and more terrifying. The green tentacles on his head were slapping around. "Asshole, you are looking for death." Sakuragi Sime stood up straight and stared at Li Bo with cold eyes. He did not take Li Bo or the resentful demon in front of him seriously at all. He was a bastard who was not even a certified player. He was a little resentful demon who was not ignored at all. He took it to heart. Li Bo couldn't tell the depth of Sakuragi Sime's strength. When he heard this, he even looked sad and angry, pointed at Sakuragi Sime and said, "Brother, look, this kid doesn't take you seriously at all." Ah! Under Li Bo's repeated stimulation in his ears, a complex feeling swept through the man's body in an instant. This feeling included being cheated, angry, crazy, violent. The man's eyes suddenly turned red. It was as if all the blood in his body was rushing to his head. That kind of manic and uncontrollable mood completely swallowed up his reason in an instant. He screamed wildly, raised his huge fist, and smashed it towards Sakuragi Sime. Upon seeing this, Sakuragi Sime ducked back lightly, but what followed was a frantic attack of dense green tentacles like a wild dragon and python. Boom 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 boom. The huge tentacles directly smashed through the ground, then rolled up countless rubbles and swept towards Sakuragi Sime like a hail of bullets. Even though Sakuragi Sime was extremely powerful, he frowned for a moment and secretly cursed, "Trouble." He immediately raised his gong and struck it, bang. The sound of the gong made the man feel slightly dazed. However, what Sakuragi Haruaki didn't expect was that the man's spirit was only slightly dazed, and then countless tentacles crazily hit Sakuragi Haruaki. Not working. Sakuragi Sime didn't expect this, and when he came to his senses, he could only dodge in embarrassment. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a strong sense of crisis hit Sakuragi Qingming, which shocked her heart. Without thinking, she formed a seal with her hands, 36 paths, white world. The surrounding void was twisted, as if there was a layer of white holy light covering him. It was at this moment that a dazzling thunder suddenly exploded. Boom! The lightning tore through the void and hit the barrier hard, catching Sakuragi Sime off guard. The power of lightning penetrated the barrier. Even though the power was greatly damaged, it still made his whole body numb and unable to move. He was immediately followed by tentacles. It fell directly to the ground. "Asshole, I'm going to cut you to pieces." Sakuragi Sime got up from the ground with a look of embarrassment, cursing Li Bo for being such a villain in his heart. However, when he looked up, he found that Li Bo had disappeared. You would be a fool not to run. After being hit twice by the tentacles, he was able to get up and curse. At first glance, it was a tough fight. If he made a sneak attack and threw the big brother away, he would gain blood. If he stayed, he would die. Sakuragi Sime wanted to chase Li Bo, but the strong man in front of him was already chasing him like crazy, leaving Sakuragi Sime unable to take any time off. "Let me do it." At this time, Akimaru rushed over from one side and headed straight for Li Bo's escape direction. Akimaru waved the big fan in his hand and chased after Li Bo almost instantly. "Hey, I like killing rookies the most. What a coincidence, I like it too." However, before he could take action, a crack in the void tore open in the darkness, and a big hand appeared on top of Akimaru's head. A stream of bright red blood burst out from the palm, hitting Akimaru's head directly. Not good. The sudden change caused Akimaru's expression to change drastically. He waved the big fan in his hand, creating a hurricane and forcefully changing the direction of his body. Boom! The blood almost grazed his shoulder, penetrated the floor, and exploded a huge hole in the ground. But the attack was far from over. Another crack quietly appeared behind Akimaru. This time, in the crack, there was a broken blade burning with blood. Akimaru didn't even have a chance to hide now. Fortunately, he had many prop cards on him. At the critical moment, one of the prop cards was activated by Akimaru. This prop card had two abilities. Illusory body can put itself into an illusory state and become immune to physical attacks for 3 seconds. Void Walker in the illusory state, he can get rid of physical constraints and change his position at will. Akimaru, who had entered the illusory physique, did not dare to take the knife forcefully, and quickly moved his body away to distance himself quickly. Space system. When his figure landed, he looked again and saw that there were two more people beside Li Bo. Gu Zibai and Chang Wuju, one on the left and one on the right, stood in front of him like Dharma protectors. "Brother Chang, I miss you so much." Li Bo was so excited when he saw Chang Wuku that he almost rushed towards him, hugged Chang Wuku and kissed him hard. Chang Wuku didn't have a good impression of Li Bo. He could never understand why Su Tong would recruit such a waste into the team. Therefore, facing the enthusiastic Libo, Chang Liuji's face was extremely cold, and he just sneered, "It's a miracle that you can still survive to this day." Libo didn't understand Chang Liuji's sarcasm, but his eyes were slightly red and he stared down at himself without saying a word. Chang Liuji felt disgusted when he saw his appearance. He was about to curse, but when his eyes saw the bright red blood on Libo's crotch, the words he wanted to curse choked in his mouth. He stared at him for a few times, then his face softened a little, and he said softly, "Go hide on the third floor and leave the rest to us." Middle. Libo looked at Chang Wahan's approving look at him, and felt warm in his heart. It seems that brother Chang is actually a sharp-tongued person, but he actually still cares about me. Two brothers, be careful. This guy has a very weird ability. He seems to be able to transfer his soul to others, so he is not afraid of death in a fight. After Libo finished speaking, he got up and ran upstairs. Seeing Libo running away in embarrassment, Gao Zhou asked Chang Wogu with a puzzled face, "Don't you dislike him?" Chang Wahan nodded, "I don't like it now either." After saying that, he added, "It's just that this person has the ability to adapt to changes in a place like this, so I won't compete with him." Gao Zhou nodded. Although he felt something was wrong, he still thought it made sense. "Yes, we are all in the same team, why bother worrying about everything?" The two of them looked at Akimaru in front of them, and their eyes turned cold. "Come together." After saying that, the two of them rushed forward to face Akimaru. At this moment, Su Tong had already put away the big rhinoceros bow in his hand. Goo 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 goo. 5 fur balls also rolled up to Su Tong at this time, and handed the dragon bird arrow to Su Tong as if asking for credit. "Well done, I'll give you jelly beans to eat when I get back." When these 5 little guys heard the jelly beans, they rolled on the ground with joy. Su Tong reached out and sent them back to the hall behind him. "Boss, do you want to help?" Gu Zibai raised his head and looked in the direction of Chang Liuju and the others. The two of them worked together in perfect harmony. Gao Zhou was the main attacker, while Chang Wahan continued to feint and sneak attacks. For a moment, Akimaru had difficulty parrying and was already at a disadvantage. But Akimaru is obviously not a fuel-efficient lamp. With 1 against 2, he can advance and retreat easily, and all kinds of prop cards are thrown out as if they are free of charge. Even if Gao Zhou and Chang Wogu joined forces, they didn't even get a few advantages. "Gao Zhou, Lao Bai, give him a bargain and let him go." Seeing this, Su Tong thought for a moment and then spoke through the team channel. Back in the cemetery, he still remembered Akimaru's words, "There is more than one evil spirit." "Boss, let him go, it will be easier for him." Although Gao Zhou was not angry, he had begun to slow down his offensive, while Chang Wogu simply hid behind him and stopped making sneak attacks. How could Akimaru not understand what was going on when the two of them were so blatantly letting each other off? He glanced at Su Tong, made a feint, turned around and ran away. After Akimaru escaped, Su Tong glanced around and saw Sakuragi Sime in the distance. He raised his hand and pointed, "That Akimaru is not important. Beat this guy first." Sakuragi Sime is fighting hard. The man in front of him has been severely injured by him, and the tentacles on his left arm and head have been cut off by him. He even punched a hole in his chest, but this guy became more and more courageous as he fought, fighting with all his might without fear of death. Even though Sakuragi Sime was much stronger than him, he was also driving him crazy for a moment. I thought to myself, what grudge do I have against you? Just when Sakuragi Sime was shouting that he was unlucky, he suddenly saw Su Tong and others coming towards him from the corner of his eye. His face suddenly changed, and he could no longer care about the man in front of him. His fingers formed seals and his figure turned into blossoming cherry blossoms. Split into 3, and rushed downstairs. "You want to leave without even saying hello, are you polite?" Although Su Tong was unable to fly, he shrank to the ground and stopped in front of a clone of Sakuragi Sime. He swung the pure yang sword in his hand and ignited a vermilion fire, instantly piercing the clone. The other two clones, one on the left and one on the right, did not want Chang Wuja to directly tear open the space, fall through the air, reach out and hit the clone hard, and penetrate the other clone again. Now there was only one clone left. Instead of chasing after him, Su Tong picked up the pure yang sword and rushed forward from the other side. He swung the long sword to draw a waning moon, and a large amount of pure yang sword chi hit the exit of the stairs like a heavy rain. Rumble, rumble. Suddenly, the stairway was cut and crushed by countless sword energy, and a figure appeared in embarrassment. It was Sakuragi Sime. "Hey, I let you escape last time, let's see who will save you this time." Su Tong ran straight towards him with his long sword in hand. Sakuragi Kingming's chest breathed out, and his face suddenly turned pale. He was an enlightened master, but he was not enough in front of Su Tong. At the critical moment of life and death, Sakuragi Sime suddenly felt his feet tremble, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. It's just that his joy was so sudden that Su Tong noticed it before he had time to hide it. It's a scam. The thought came to mind, and Su Tong immediately noticed a surge of violent energy under his feet, and a strong sense of crisis came over him, but it was too late to dodge, so he simply turned his sword style, the long sword buzzed, and the vermilion flames wrapped around it. On the sword body, a sword slashed towards the ground, fire slash. The moment the sword struck, the ground exploded with a roar. A giant hand protruded from the soil and collided with Su Tong's sword energy. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 887. Fiery Slash. It consumes 30 script points to create explosive flames within a 20-meter diameter area centered on itself. The surrounding targets have a 60% chance of being knocked back. As soon as the sword fell, vermilion flames exploded in the air like lotus flowers, and the shock wave generated caused Sakuragi Sime's body to fly backwards involuntarily. But a huge hand in the sea of fire ignored the influence of the vermilion flames, stretched out from the ground, and slapped Su Tong's sword blade. Boom! Su Tong first felt numb in the tiger's mouth, and then a wave of landslide and tsunami hit along the blade of the sword, and his body flew backwards like a cannonball. Boom! 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 After crashing through several walls, half the building collapsed at once. Head. Seeing Su Tong being severely injured, the expressions of Gao Zhou and the others suddenly changed, thinking of rushing forward with giant hands. Boom! But before they could get closer, the entire earth was shaking violently, and huge cracks were torn from the ground. Suffocating black resentment surged from the ground. It was unclear for a moment whether it was the earth that was shaking or the whole cave that was shaking. Ha 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 ha, you're done, you're done. Sakuragi Sime got up from the ground and laughed crazily. The ancestor has come out of seclusion, and you are all going to die. Congratulations to our ancestors for coming out of seclusion. Several other Japanese players quickly fell down. The ancestors' release from seclusion means that from today on, this script world will be their home court. No one can compete with them, not even land gods like Su Tong. Boom! As soon as Sakuragi Sime finished speaking, a huge sarcoma suddenly rose from the ground. The red sarcoma was flowing with black liquid, and then it hit Gao Zhou and the others like a giant hammer. Grass. Seeing this extremely huge sphere falling, the expressions of Gao Zhou and the other three people suddenly changed, and they quickly dodged away. Sensation. The entire ground was crushed by a giant hammer, revealing a huge hole. The pungent rotten stench surged out from under the pit with a deafening roar. Just hearing the sound made the remaining resentful demons in Kowloon walled city tremble uncontrollably. Among them were Big Mouth, who was hiding in the corridor, and the man who wanted to fight Sakuragi Haruaki before. This is due to the oppression of class. The existence in the whole seems to be their natural master. Their life or death depends entirely on the other person's thoughts. Then, in the shocked eyes of Gao Zhou and the other three people, a huge creature walked out from below step by step. With every step he took, the whole world shook. With every step he took, the huge black mist made everyone feel a pressure. In my heart, I feel a sense of despair that makes me unable to resist. It seemed that the one who came out of the pit was the devil in hell. Hiss. Finally, when the figure gradually became clear in the darkness, everyone took a breath of air. Magnificent, huge, and exuding a desperate atmosphere, just one look at it makes people feel uneasy and make their breathing quicken. It's over, it's really over. When the three iron hands hiding in the corner saw this scene, they were extremely glad for their choice. This kind of monster was no longer something they, the second-line deputy group, could fight against. Unless you are a core member of the front line, there is no possibility of confrontation. Now they can only hope in their hearts that after Mansai Musashigen kills Su Tong and others, the Japanese players can complete the main mission as soon as possible, which will be beneficial to everyone. The 8 huge arms on the majestic figure are stretched out, and a huge magic wheel emerges behind him, like an oversized millstone. Every time it turns, it is to crush all the sins in the world and merge them into this huge statue. In the body. All the evil in the world is the law of endless hell. I am willing to sacrifice myself and become a demon to collect the sins of the world. What joy is there in life and how painful is death? Mansai Musashigen raised his head, half human and half demon. A group of people hid on the 3rd floor. Maida looked at the sudden appearance of Mansai Musashigen, and his expression became solemn for a moment. Uncle, I'm afraid. The little girl who was saved by Gao Zhou did not dare to look at her and could only curl up in Maida's arms. Maida gently patted the girl's forehead, showing an air of self-blame. Last time, in order to save Gao Zhou, Maida used the Mei family's dream technique. This Mei family's dream technique is not a method of killing people, nor is it a technique of trapping people. Instead, it is a technique of creation. Those who practice it can look back on their lives and realize the true meaning of life and death in death. It can be said that it is a dream that lasts for more than 100 years. Once you wake up, everything will be light. This technique was created by Taoist Mai Hua. Because the descendants of the Mei family do not fall into reincarnation after death, but they cannot avoid dealing with the underworld. Therefore, this technique was created to allow the younger descendants of the Mei family to have the ability to understand life and death. Of course, not everyone can realize it, and there are certain risks. Instead of realizing the true meaning of life and death, some descendants of the Mei family have become obsessed with it, and some have even driven themselves to pieces. Under the circumstances at that time, Maida had no way to weigh the pros and cons, so he could only use this technique to temporarily control Mansai Musashigen. Later, this guy disappeared, and Maida didn't know what happened. But judging from the current situation, this guy seems to have succeeded. He realized life and death, swallowed those evil gods, and became a new god. Thinking of this, Maida pushed the girl in his arms aside into Li Bo's arms and patted Li Bo on the shoulder. Although there were no words, Li Bo probably understood what Maida meant. He nodded immediately. Don't worry, I will take good care of her. Uncle. Seeing that Maida was about to leave, the little girl reached out and grabbed Maida's hand and refused to let go. Seeing this, Maida opened his mouth and pulled out one of his zombie teeth, and handed it to the girl. A smile that was uglier than crying appeared on his stiff face. He gently touched the girl's head and then handed it to the girl. He put his hand on her mouth and signaled her not to make any sound, then turned around and walked down the stairs without looking back. Boom! There was a loud bang, and thick dust floated into the air. Gao Zhou and the others looked at the huge figure behind them and could only run away in confusion. The attacks of the 3 people had almost no effect on Gen Mansai Musashi. Don't look back, run away. At this time, Su Tong stood up from the ruins. His right hand drooped as if it was out of joint. The power of the palm just now exceeded his imagination. Even his body after transforming into a dragon could not support it. The entire right arm was damaged. Already comminuted fracture. Boss, let's go together. Come on, the worst is to risk your life. Gao Zhou roared angrily and had no intention of leaving. Instead, he planned to give it a try. Let's go. You heard me right, now is not the time to fight. Su Tong frowned and called for them to run out. This. Gao Zhou wanted to say something else, but Gu Zibai grabbed his arm from the side. We have to trust the boss and leave quickly. Gao Zhou felt uncomfortable, but he knew that staying would only be a drag, so he could only grit his teeth and run outside the Kowloon walled city. At this moment, Su Tong had summoned the second soul. After Xiaopang experienced the last thunder tribulation, his soul became more powerful. The original traces of talismans on his body had disappeared. At this moment, it had completed its transformation. There were 3 lightning balls floating behind it, and its round little face looked more like a living person. But even it, under the influence of the rules of the cave, was still unable to fly. It could only stand above Su Tong's head. 3 lightning balls rotated around a little fat man, and a steady stream of thunder and lightning struck Mansai Musashi. Go down. There were thunder and lightning flashes, carrying the power and righteousness of heaven. But when it fell on Mansai Musashi Gen, the thunder was loud and the rain was light. A large amount of lightning didn't even touch this guy's body, and was destroyed by the huge magic wheel behind him. The land immortal is just an earth immortal after all, not a real immortal. Why do you want to kill me? Mansai Musashi Gen looked at Su Tong, with a sarcastic look on half of his face that represented a human being. In order to prolong his life, he did countless evil things. Among them, he invented the so-called human gallbladder pill, which was made by mixing the spinal cord, brain fluid, and bile of a living person. He would get sick as soon as he took it. Century. In order to survive, he even transplanted part of the ancient god's body into his own body. But these are just spring and autumn dreams, destined to be empty in the end. Only by transcending oneself and becoming a god instantly is the true supreme way. So rather than saying that he swallowed the parasitic shrines on his body, it is better to say that he took the initiative to accept the power of these shrines and truly merged them together to become the true god in this world. I have lived for almost 300 years, and I have never stopped practicing hard every day. Now that I have been crowned as a god, why do you, a mere mortal, kill me? Accompanied by Mansai Musashi Gen's questioning, the 8 arms waved at the same time, and the huge force caused the entire cave to be torn open. Countless curses covered the cave world under the waving of the 8 arms. The 5th floor of the Kowloon walled city it began to explode, followed by the 4th floor, which also began to collapse. This scene is too terrifying. A big black hand reaches out from an unknown place, covering the entire world. Everything seems so small in front of it, not even dust. Su Tong looked at the terrifying power in front of him with a calm expression. Why? Just because of this thing, I dare to kill you. After saying that, he raised his palm, and a strange square long box suddenly appeared in his hand. Ding! Do you want to activate the Myriad Machine Divine Box? Please indicate the item points required for activation. There was a cold reminder in his ears, and Su Tong knew in his heart that this fierce battle had just begun. His enemy was not just Mansai Musashi Gen, but there were more troublesome beings behind him. Thinking of this, Su Tong took a deep breath. Activate, 50,000 script points. In an instant, the numbers in the props book began to evaporate quickly, and the number of 50,000 script points disappeared from Su Tong's props book in an instant. After receiving the points for the script, the God box immediately made a sound of rotating gears. As the God box split, a mechanical dragon's head poked out from the God box, with a golden energy ball hanging in its mouth. Su Tong held up the dragon's head with one hand and pointed it at Gen Mansai Musashi, "Kill God, kill." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 888. Rumble, Rumble. Outside Kowloon City in the New Territories, thick dark clouds shrouded the land. Some residents who have been relocated from the Kowloon walled city look back and feel a sense of joy in surviving the disaster. Because the dark clouds felt so ominous, especially the lightning that burst out from time to time, giving people a feeling of impending disaster. Just looking at it makes my heart beat fast, and I can't imagine what it would be like if I were still living in it. How long do we have to wait? Why do I feel more and more creepy about this place? On the roof of the Kowloon walled city, the pharmacist looked at the grey world in front of him and felt a tingle in his heart. He had already entered the cave world with Su Tong and the others, and he even heard Li Bo's shouts in the team channel. But before he could respond, he was forcefully pulled out by a hand, and the person who pulled him out was none other than Guo Xiang, who had already been taken away. Guo Xiang looked back at the pharmacist and shook her head. "Wait a minute, now is not the time to go in." Her eyes seemed to be able to peer directly into the cave world. At this moment, she could clearly see Su Tong holding the myriad machine divine box high, brilliant golden red, spraying out from the dragon's mouth in the box, and hitting Mansai Musashi Gen's body heavily. The huge recoil directly cracked the dragon scales on Su Tong's arm, but the terrifying lethality even tore one of Mansai Musashi Gen's arms apart, and holes as big as a millstone were directly pierced through his chest and abdomen. Black blood evaporates in the air. Mansai Musashi Gen let out a painful cry. Su Tong was worried about his 50,000 script points. Guo Xiang's eyes were piercing, looking at the rainbow light that was violently turbulent and even threatening to tear the cave sky apart. Her slender fingers clenched tightly into fists for a moment. Ah! The huge pain spread throughout the body like a tide, and the low roar sounded like a wild beast roaring at this time. It was so shocking that the soul of the person was about to leave the body and the whole body was about to burst. This sound was like muffled thunder, making everyone's ears buzz, and the blood almost broke through the blood vessels and rushed out, and the whole body was thunderous. Countless curses that distort human nature spread like black storms, causing the surrounding earth to corrode and everything to decay. Sakuragi Sime, Gaozhou, and others retreated one after another, not daring to watch the battle at close range. Boom! Suddenly there was a huge roar in the storm. Countless gravel flew up, and Su Tong's figure was among them. Head. Gaozhou's expression changed greatly. Fortunately, Chang Wuju had torn open the void at this moment, risking being hit hard by the cursed storm to catch Su Tong, who fell. Careful! Chang Wuju had just caught Su Tong, and a big hand wrapped with countless curses came out of the storm and slapped Chang Wuju and the two. Grass. Chang Wuju wanted to escape into the void, but countless curses around him were wrapped around him like shackles. Skill activation failed. Please try again. You are subject to a negative curse weakness, and your entire physical constitution is reduced by 12%. You are subject to a negative curse disease that randomly produces 3 diseases: pneumonia, acute gastroenteritis, and syphilis. You are affected by the negative curse spiritual drainage, and the probability of successful activation of all props and skills is reduced to 25%. You are under a negative curse plagued with all kinds of diseases. The effect of disease-type curses is increased by 20%. The reminders of negative curse effects echoed crazily in Chang Wuhan's ears, causing Chang Wuhan's expression to change drastically. If Su Tong could open his eyes at this moment and look at Chang Wuju's luck, he would find that this guy's luck began to plummet to the bottom in an instant. Seeing that it was too late to dodge, Chang Wuju's mind fell to the bottom. Are you going to die? Chang Wuzi's heart beat faster, but when he saw Su Tong lying in his arms, a flash of relief flashed in his eyes. Maybe this result is not bad. At the critical moment, Mei Da's figure had already rushed into the cursed storm. I saw him tearing open the clothes on his body, and there were actually gold patterns branded under the skinny skin. These textures were complicated and tortuous. It was hard to figure out at first glance, but if you look carefully, you can see that this is actually a painting. A picture of 100 ghosts walking at night. Just listen to Mei Da silently reciting the mantra in his heart. The golden dragons on the left and right are wrapped around the Tianzu, and the 10 great eunuchs are carrying the golden throne. On the left are the 5 generals sounding golden drums, and on the right are the envoys of the 5 plagues coming with lanterns. The unworthy disciples of the Mei family borrow the name of their ancestors and worship the sect of the 5 sacred mountains. Please ask Emperor Tiankai Renzheng to appear. After reciting the mantra, Mei Da's whole body seemed to be on fire. The golden light on his body was brilliant, and a huge Mount Tai appeared behind him. Mount Tai was not big, but it swallowed up the whole world. Once it appeared, it was filled with mighty power. Boom! Under the divine power, even though Mansai Musa Shijen had achieved great enlightenment and became a god immediately, he instinctively knelt on the ground for the first time. The muscles all over his body were trembling. The slap that was supposed to hit Chang Wuhan narrowly missed Chang Wuhan and hit the ground heavily on the side. However, despite this, Chang Wuhan was also swept up by the huge wind of his palm and hit the ground heavily. At the same time, countless curses broke out, almost killing him on the spot. Looking carefully, there is a temple as big as a grain of rice in Mount Tai. Although the temple is small, it is infinitely large in the eyes of Mansai Musashi Gen. But he didn't even have the courage to raise his head. He could only kneel on the ground and look at the solace of the God's feet. The power of God is like prison, and the grace of God is like the sea. What is in front of him is the true master of heaven and earth, the supreme true God who controls the life and death of thousands of creatures. Even if he didn't come there in person, and not even a thought of a clone came to him, this statue alone made Mansai Musa Shigen's heart shake, and his whole body's skin and flesh exploded, as if he was about to lose his soul. However, this burst of divine power will not last long. After all, Mei Da is not a living person after all. In the body of a zombie, he respectfully invites Lord Taishan. Even if he just invites the shadow of a statue, it is a crime of disrespect, causing his internal organs to be burned, and life is worse than death. This is one of the reasons why Taoist Mai Hua once established a family rule that the bodies of descendants of the Mei family must not be transformed into corpses after death. However, in a moment, Mei Da's flesh and skin were burned to charcoal, and he had to quickly stop his attack. He quickly retreated to Chang Wogu's side, reached out and grabbed Chang Wogu and Su Tong, and ran away. Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai also followed closely. They took Su Tong and Chang Wogu from Mei Da, and immediately took out the elixir and stuffed it into Su Tong's mouth. As soon as he took the elixir, Su Tong couldn't stand it. The ground spit out blood. Click. At the same time, there was a crisp cracking sound in his ears, and he saw a copper coin falling from his luck. Su Tong squinted and found that the 3 heavenly officials in his luck had disappeared. The coins that originally represented fortune, wealth, and longevity had disappeared. One of the 3 copper coins also shattered at this moment, and the remaining 2 copper coins were already shaky and full of cracks. But he didn't care much at the moment. When he saw the injured Chang Wuhan and Empress Mei whose whole body was burned to coke, he quickly called out the great Sun Ruyi furnace. As soon as his mind moved, he saw that the thunder fluid in the furnace immediately boiled and evaporated, turning into pure life force and pouring down into the bodies of the 3 people. In a moment, Su Tong's injuries had fully recovered, but the effect of the great Sun Ruyi furnace on the other 2 was not good. Oh, it hurts. I saw Chang Liuja gradually waking up under the blessing of the power of life, but he was injured too seriously, even worse than Su Tong. Various curses were wrapped around his body, making him suffer from all kinds of diseases. These diseases were like a bottomless hole, it crazily swallows up the life force injected into the body. Su Tong injected a large amount of life force into this guy's body. Instead of making him better, his injuries became more and more serious. As for Maida, it had no effect. The life force was injected into the body and was rejected out in an instant. Maida shook his head. He was a zombie, but he was completely different from Gao Zhou. Gao Zhou reversed the practice of life and death, becoming half human and half corpse. There was still room for maneuver, but he had been turned into a zombie for too long, and the inside of his body had already decayed. It naturally formed a repulsive effect on the power of life, and he could not absorb even a drop of it. Go in. Su Tong could only give them some 5 spirit pills, and then asked Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai to help them leave quickly. As soon as they left, Mansai Musashi Gen dared to slightly raise his head to take a look. It wasn't because he was timid, but because of his unparalleled power just now, it almost caused his heart to collapse. It is a towering giant that makes people feel hopeless when looking up at it. It takes great courage to even take a look, let alone climb it. Sir. They ran outside. Akimaru and Sakuragi Sime rushed over with people. Mansai Musashigen slowly got up from the ground, not caring about the embarrassing posture just now. In front of those gods, everyone is just an ant humbled in the dust. However, Mansai Musashigen was still very dissatisfied with the performance of Akimaru and others. Idiots, why didn't you stop them? Akimaru and the others did not dare to say anything, so they could only lower their heads and receive the scolding. Sakuragi Sime hurriedly said, Ancestor, in fact, we are not without gains. The ghost has reported to us, and the other party seems to know the news about the door. Hearing this news, Mansai Musashigen's face finally showed some secret joy. Before he could ask further questions, Sakuragi Sime hurriedly said, Don't worry, we have already begun to investigate this matter. We will report it to you as soon as we have accurate information. Sakuragi Sime's words were very beautiful, but if you think about it carefully, you didn't say the same thing after you said it. After all, what they knew was very limited. The hurried report to Mansai Musashigen was just to divert his anger. If he really explained it in detail, he wouldn't even be able to tell the truth. Akimaru nodded to the side and cooperated, Yes, don't worry, sir. The most important thing right now is to eradicate the root cause immediately and not give them a chance to breathe. Mansai Musashigen was repeatedly jumped left and right by the 2 people, and his thoughts could not be concentrated. His huge body gradually stood up, looking towards the direction where Su Tong and others were fleeing, with a ferocious smile on his face. They are asking for help, it just so happens that it's time to make a decision on some things. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 889. Hoo. The group of people ran for the road. No matter how small the movement was, it was too much for Chang Wahen. He was riddled with all kinds of diseases and couldn't raise any strength in his body. It seemed as if he would belch at any time. What left him speechless the most was that he was obviously a eunuch, so why did he get syphilis? Why don't you come to AIDS? Even if I get cancer, I can accept it? The guy was lying on Gao Zhou's back, struggling with the problem that he had syphilis. At the same time, he stared at Su Tong sideways, thinking, if I can't get through this today, even if I can't kill this guy, I won't be able to kill him, gonna stab him. Boss, which way are we going? Gao Zhou looked back at Su Tong, who was not in a good condition at the moment. One arm suffered a nearly comminuted fracture, and even with the Great Sun Ruyi Cauldron, it would not be possible to recover for a while. Fortunately, he has almost recovered from his internal injuries, but his strength will inevitably be greatly reduced. Mansai Musashigen's power completely exceeded his expectations. Now it seemed that if he wanted to kill him, he could only use the Nine Immortals Cauldron, a powerful weapon. It's just that the Nine Immortals Cauldron is his most important trump card. Once activated, it will be a bottomless hole for burning money. As a last resort, he doesn't want to take it out rashly to deal with Mansai Musashi-gen. To put it simply, he is not worthy of a rich burial with this treasure to himself. Just ahead, keep walking. Su Tong pointed ahead. The group didn't walk for long before they saw the Flesh and Blood Temple standing outside the Kowloon walled city. What the hell is this place? This was the first time for Gao Zhou and the others to see such a strange temple. For a moment, they felt terrified, as if they were all uncomfortable. In fact, let alone them, even Su Tong would feel uncomfortable every time he approached this temple. Su Tong lifted Chang Wuju off Gao Zhou's back and strode towards the temple. He glanced at Xiao Suifeng, who was sitting in the temple like a clay sculpture. He raised his leg and kicked the temple. Don't do it, pretend to be dead, help me undo the curse on him. Mao Suifeng's body trembled slightly, his eyelids slowly opened, and he looked outside the Kowloon walled city in the distance. Although it was still a little far away, he could already feel the huge pressure moving towards him. Suddenly showing a bit of displeasure. You lured them here on purpose. Stop talking nonsense. I'm working my ass off out front. You're just sitting here eating melons. Have you ever asked me how I feel? We are all like grasshoppers in the same boat. We are finished and you won't be able to feel better either. Su Tong's carefree expression, coupled with the sinister look on his face, really brought out the unreasonable side of Du Anan, a grasshopper in the world. Mao Suifeng frowned, obviously angry at Su Tong's words, but now was definitely not the time to fall out, so he could only endure his inner discomfort, open his chest, and reveal the shrine hidden inside. A dark hand slowly came out from the shrine and gently grasped Chang Wuxiu's body. Like a gelatinous curse, the curse was gradually withdrawn from Chang Wuxiu's body. It might be because of Su Tong's attitude that the process was particularly painful. Chang Wuxiu almost fainted. It felt like someone was forcing him. He peeled off his own skin alive. However, in the midst of the pain, this guy actually felt a little pleasure that he had not seen for a long time. As soon as all the curses were removed from his body, Chang Wuhan gradually regained his strength, and there was still a feeling of unfinished content on his face. Without the influence of the curse, Su Tong once again summoned the Great Sun Ruyi Furnace and injected a large amount of life power into Chang Wuxiu's body, allowing him to quickly recover from his injuries. The thing you just took out is very powerful, can you still use it again? Mao Suifeng has been paying close attention to every move of Su Tong and others. When Su Tong took out the god-killing control, even he felt a strong sense of crisis. That thing was definitely a treasure that could kill gods. It can't be used. That thing is a treasure passed down from our ancestors and can only be used once a year. Su Tong shook his head. If I can use it twice, why would I ask you for help? Then, can we still invite that person here? Mao Suifeng asked relentlessly. Su Tong rolled his eyes and pointed at Maida, who was about to be burned into coal. See for yourself, it is almost scrapped, how can you still count on him? Besides, if we are really invited, can you bear it? Facing Su Tong's ridicule, Mao Suifeng's expression suddenly changed. Although I really wanted to be tough for my own self-esteem, thinking of the shadow of Mount Tai just now made me feel weak inside. I could only close my eyes and express my final stubbornness in silence. Stop counting on others. We are grasshoppers in the same boat. If you have any means, please tell me quickly, otherwise I may not be able to hold on for too long. Su Tong's words were half true and half false, but they also told the truth. Mansai Musashi-gen's strength is indeed much higher than him. At least he, an earthly immortal, may not be his opponent. What's more, he has Japanese masters like Sakuragi Sime around him to help him out. Who dares to say that they don't have any big weapons in their hands? When Mao Suifeng heard this, he could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He glared at Su Tong and said, "Don't forget, you have my curse on you. If I die, you will be buried with me." After saying that, Mao Suifeng also used this ability. Invisibly, it was as if a whip was hitting Su Tong hard. No one even noticed what happened, and saw a dazzling blood mark on Su Tong's face. Mao Suifeng seemed to want to use this method to show his status to Su Tong. But he misjudged the person. Not only did this threat have no effect on Su Tong, it actually made him aware of Mao Suifeng's inner uneasiness and cowardice. With a slanted face, he raised his head and looked at the shrine on Mao Suifeng's chest. He put his whole face up to it with a smile, almost touching the shrine. "You risk your life, I'm a professional, I have more exciting ways to play, why don't you give it a try?" There was unspeakable madness in his empty eyes, as if death was more of an interesting thing. If it were another time, Chen Wangshen would definitely kill this bastard without hesitation, but at this moment he didn't dare, not only because of the enemy, but also because Gao Zhou and the others were staring at him with unkind expressions. If he really takes action against Su Tong, he may not need Mansai Musa Shijen and others to come. They are afraid that chaos will start here. I just hope you can understand that our lives are tied together. After a moment of silence, Chen Wangshen finally gave in. "As long as you help me kill Mansai Musashi Gen, I will lift the curse on you. I can swear this in my name, Chen Wangshen. I'm sure I can kill him, but I need you to buy me time." Su Tong raised his head and raised his finger. "Not much, 15 minutes is enough. Chen Wangshen is a scourge, but the one who is more dangerous than him is not Mansai Musashi Gen, but Guo Xiang, who has not shown up yet. This guy's shrine is not on Guo Xiang's body, it should be hidden in a corner. This guy might even be hiding in a corner as a bystander, silently watching every move of everyone in the cave. Dragons and tigers compete with each other and the fishermen benefit. I need a chance to catch them all, otherwise I will end up making wedding clothes for others. 15 minutes. Chen Wangshen hesitated for a moment. "You are sure you can kill this guy Wanzai? I guarantee you in the name of my father that if it expires within 15 minutes, you can choose to kill me as soon as possible." Su Tong raised his palms and said solemnly, and anyone could feel his sincerity. Except for often cursing secretly in his heart without any trace, "If I hadn't grown up with you, I would have almost believed it." "Okay. But if the 15 minutes are over and you haven't taken action, I will kill you as soon as possible," Chen Wangshen reiterated again, hoping that Su Tong could understand that his life was in his hands. "Don't worry, I am someone worthy of your trust." Su Tong patted his conscience and said with pride. Everyone nodded in agreement, holding a positive attitude towards this. Boom. At this time, the opposite side began to tremble. Su Tong glanced back and saw the huge body of Mansai Musa Shijen in his sight. He immediately called Chang Wogu and others to follow him and ran back. At the same time, he did not forget to turn around and make a cheering gesture to Chen Wangshen. "Come on. You can do it." I don't know why, but looking at Su Tong's retreating back, Chen Wangshen always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put it into words. He thought to himself, "This guy shouldn't lie to me, probably won't." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 890. You've crossed a line. A low voice of questioning came from the temple. Mao Suifeng slowly raised his head, then twisted his body a few times, gradually stood up from the altar, stood up slowly, and then walked out of the temple step by step, first looking back in the direction of Su Tong. When he saw Su Tong already in trance, with the dazzling Buddha's light radiating from his body, Mao Suifeng's anxious heart finally calmed down. Then he looked at Mansai Musashi Gen. "We originally agreed not to affect reality, as long as we find the door." "Find that door?" It sounds nice, but have you really found it? That kind of thing doesn't exist at all. Instead of wasting time, it's better to turn this world into a world dominated by us now. The person speaking was not Mansai Musashigen himself, but his other half's demon-like face, and the will in the three shrines. That is the will of the other three shrines, and now it has been completely integrated with Mansai Musashigen. At a time when we are about to enter the age of ending Dharma, even if you really bring the entire Dongtian into the real world, you can't make changes. In the age of ending Dharma, you will become weaker and weaker, until in the end, you will be unable to control Dongtian. It will completely submerge you. Mao Suifeng disagreed with the statements of his three brothers. 100 years ago, he might have approved of this proposal. Because as far as he knew, in the depths of time, some gods had already begun to use their caves to change the entire world and become the rulers of that world. But it is already the end of the Dharma era, and even if they do this, they are destined not to last long. Only by finding that door and leaving this era can we have a chance to survive. Don't talk nonsense to him, he's stalling for time. Another face of Gen Mansai Musashi reminded him, dragging his huge body and rushing towards the spear in front of him, since you are unwilling to merge with us, then go to hell. The cursed storm was unleashed, instantly causing everything around it to decay. Seeing this, Mao Suifeng could only take action at the same time. Countless dense hairs began to grow crazily as if they were given some kind of life by Mao Suifeng, weaving into a giant, piercing through the curse in front of him, and colliding with Mansai Musashigen's fist. Boom! The world was flooded with suffocating resentment, and the surrounding ground suddenly exploded. Countless hairs turned into fly ash in an instant. This was an absolutely terrifying attack, and terrifying dark power surged around like a tide. An unlucky Japanese player just dodged a step too late, and one arm was touched by the black airflow. As a result, the entire arm turned into white bones in an instant. The black wall that had just been erected obviously could not withstand such a terrifying attack, and it was incinerated into ashes after holding on for a few seconds. Quick, rush with me. Seeing that the high wall blocking the road was burned down, Sakuragi Qingming suddenly led his men to kill Su Tong and others. Let's go. Seeing this, Gao Zhou and the other three took the initiative to come forward. Maida originally wanted to follow them, but his injuries were too serious and he was unable to participate in the battle. The three of them showed their trump cards one after another. For a time, a large number of zombies were summoned by Gao Zhou, and Gao Zhou himself was completely transformed into a corpse at the same time. Holding the blood-red general's broken blade in his hand, he rushed towards Sakuragi Sime. Leave the zombies to me, come on. Seeing that the three of them seemed to be fighting for their lives, Sakuragi Sime was not surprised but happy, indicating that Su Tong must be preparing some advanced move. At this time, he must not be able to bear the slightest interruption. This is a good opportunity to kill the opponent. Sakuragi Sime took the initiative to rush forward, intending to stop all the zombies. At this moment, he no longer cared about the consumption of his script points. The secret techniques of Onmyoji Temple were continuously activated, and when his eyes opened and closed, there was actually a little golden light, which was indescribable. Of monsters. Wisps of black light flowed out from Sakuragi Sime's body. The yin in his left hand, the yang in his right hand, and his hands joined together to form a seal. For a moment, the black light flashed, and a Tai Chi diagram appeared on the soles of his feet. Yin-yang magic wuji. The moment Sakuragi Sime raised his palm, the void in front of him was suddenly enveloped by two black and white lights. The moment some zombies touched the black and white light, they instantly lost their strength and fell straight to the ground motionless. Ha ha ha, you idiot, what's so great about zombies? Our Onmyoji Temple is dedicated to defeating you zombies. Sakuragi Sime had a proud smile on her face. This move was an ability that Onmyo Shrine had only developed in recent decades. Because of the battle between Chinese and Japanese, the chief of Onmyoji Temple was drowned in the toilet, which was regarded as a great shame and humiliation by Onmyoji Temple. Later, after investigation, we found out that the other party used the power of zombies and was not afraid of the magic of their yin-yang shrine. They planned a sneak attack and severely injured the chief. After this incident, Onmyoji Temple began to increase its efforts to develop magical techniques to deal with zombies. This move is the painstaking masterpiece of an old man from the Onmyo shrine. Your zombie is neither a human nor a ghost. Although your own evil energy is powerful, the evil energy blends with the Earth's energy. As long as you use the Earth's energy to control it, you can restrain the zombie. However, just as Sakuragi Sime was feeling proud, Gao Zhou's sneer came from his ears: corpse explosion. As soon as the words were spoken, the zombies that had fallen to the ground exploded. Countless pieces of meat were mixed with zombies. Many people were unable to dodge in an instant and were seriously injured by the explosion. Taking advantage of the chaos caused by these zombies, I saw Gao Zhou rushing towards Sakuragi Sime. Facing the grey divine light in Sakuragi Sime's hand, Gao Zhou did not hinder him at all, and his sharp claws tore a line in the air. The deep gap was clawing at Sakuragi Sime fiercely. How could it be useless? This change caught Sakuragi Sime off guard. Because Gao Zhou is not a real zombie, with the technique of reverse training of life and death, his state is far more complicated than that of a zombie. Fortunately, Sakuragi Haruaki is an enlightened master after all. Even when faced with a zombie like Gao Zhou that has condensed into bones, he is still calm and contented. He dodged the incoming sharp claws lightly and kicked Gao Zhou with a backhand on Zhou's chest. Seeing this, Akimaru hesitated for a moment, then took a few players around him and ran straight towards the two old rivals Guzibai and Changwogu. It hurt me so much when you hit me last time. Akimaru's black hair was disheveled, his eyes were as deep as the stars, and a dazzling bloody light appeared behind him. He looked like an unparalleled demon king, and the fan in his hand had been replaced by a sledgehammer. You go kill other people, I'll deal with this guy. Guzibai said to Changwuju, then drew out the Wu hook and took the initiative to fight Chiguin. There is a big gap in strength between him and Akimaru, but as a warrior, he is worthy of being a man by facing up to difficulties. Although Changwogu was worried about him, he knew better that this was the best choice at this moment. His figure immediately tore through the void and quickly appeared next to a Japanese player. He grabbed the spear from the opponent's hand and stabbed him with his backhand. Another player summoned a space rift at the same time, transferring the skills that were attacking him directly to other players through the rift. A melee broke out instantly, and the scene was extremely bloody. Su Tong seemed to have entered a certain state, and the Buddha's light on his body became more and more brilliant. This scene made Li Bo, who was hiding on the rooftop in the distance and watching silently, feel numb. Brother, don't we go down and help? The little girl looked at the extremely chaotic battle in front of her and looked up at Li Bo, who was standing aside. Li Bo curled his lips inwardly and thought, when I go down, I will be a warrior. But he couldn't say these words. After all, the little girl looked at him eagerly, so he couldn't admit that he was a noob. Thinking of this, Li Bo shook his head. Don't worry, we are a cavalry and we cannot act rashly. After speaking, I glanced left and right, thinking that this place was not safe either, so it would be better to stay away. The little girl didn't know what Li Bo was looking at. She naively thought that Li Bo was worried about her safety, so she pointed at the inconspicuous clock tower on the top of the building. You don't have to worry about me, I can hide in that place. Li Bo looked in the direction pointed by the little girl. When he saw the inconspicuous bell tower, he couldn't help but ask, where is that place? Bell tower, there used to be people ringing the bell at noon, but then when there were more people, no one would ring the bell. No one can find me wherever I hide. Oh, that's how it is. Li Bo took a look and thought, Why don't he hide in such a good place? He immediately took the little girl's hand and said, "Let's go, I'll take you there first." After saying that, he took the little girl's hand and walked towards the bell tower. What Li Bo didn't know was that his every move at this moment was being stared at by two other pairs of eyes. "Are you sure that policeman won't ruin my good deeds?" Guo Xiang stared at Li Bo's back coldly and asked the pharmacist on the side. "Don't worry, he's just a rookie. You can crush him to death with one finger. It's better not to scare him." The pharmacist squatted aside and sneered, not caring about Li Bo, a loser. After all, the other party was not even a certified player. God knows why Su Tong wanted to recruit a rookie like Li Bo into the team. But it doesn't matter, when I take over the team, I will clean this guy out. The pharmacist thought about the huge sum of money and the many treasures in the team's warehouse, and the greed in his heart began to stir up. Seeing Gao Zhou and the other three members of the team locked in a bitter battle, the pharmacist wished they could die right away. Immediately his eyes looked towards the melee in the distance. Mansai Musashi Gen and Chen Wangshen, these two guys have obviously started to fight hard. Mansai Musashi Gen's strength is obviously much stronger than that of Chen Wangshen. Various curses are constantly falling on Chen Wangshen. Although Chen Wangshen is immune to these curses, as time goes by, it gradually becomes difficult for him. At this time, Mansai Musashi Gen suddenly bent down, and a thick black hand came out from his back, grabbed Chen Wangshen's arm, pulled hard, and tore his arm directly off. "Go to hell." Seeing Chen Wangshen, who had been severely injured, Mansai Musashi Gen's face showed an expression of ecstasy. With his arm torn apart, Chen Wangshen looked suspiciously in the direction of Su Tong. When he saw that Su Tong seemed to have entered a critical moment, Chen Wangshen took a deep breath and shouted, "You are the one who needs to die." While speaking, Chen Wangshen suddenly tore open his chest, exposing his shrine. In the dark shrine, a ray of black light flew out, and it turned out to be a black flying knife only 3 inches in size. This thing is called Wulong Whistle, and it is an artifact forged by the Chen family for Chen Wangshen. Over the years, Chen Wangshen has always worn it. At this moment, Chen Wangshen was suddenly sacrificed, emitting a 6-foot-long black light. Although Mansai Musashi Gen had already been prepared for it, he was unable to dodge for a while. He was only swept by the tip of the black light, but was not hit hard. He coughed up blood and his left shoulder bone cracked. Chen Wangshen took the opportunity to retreat, turned around and glared in Su Tong's direction. "Quick, how long will it take?" Big beads of sweat sprinkled down Su Tong's forehead. The Buddha's light behind him was brilliant, and 8 Vajradharma images appeared. It seemed that it was about to reach a certain critical level. Anyone could feel the chaotic aura on Su Tong's body. Mansai Musashi Gen looked at Sakuragi Simei and others, and found that these losers had not been able to get close to Su Tong until now, and he immediately cursed these losers in his heart. But in fact, we can't blame Sakuragi Qingming and others for not trying their best. Only when they really fight did they realize how difficult this group of people is. Gao Zhou's style of play is completely life-threatening. He relies on his non-transformation bones to quickly recover from serious injuries. What makes Sakuragi Simei and the others even more troublesome is the team skills of Gao Zhou and others. Bleeding Rose. Team skill, Bloody Rose, LV1. After a team member is harmed, the effect of this skill will be triggered and a layer of rose mark will be obtained. When the rose mark reaches 10 layers, it can be released to cause damage to the attacker. The rebound damage is 3% of the damage received x the number of rose layers. Target range, 20 meters. Mark existence time, 3 minutes, no damage will be taken after 3 minutes, and the layers will be cancelled. Note, the more layers there are, the stronger the rebound damage will be. The maximum limit is 100 layers. This is the first time they have collectively used this team skill. At first they didn't realize how useful this team skill was, but after using it they realized that it is a great weapon in team battles. The effect of the Bloody Rose is that team members can accumulate at the same time. In other words, as long as one person is being beaten, the accumulated layers will be superimposed on each other. The stronger the damage received, the more terrifying the rebound damage will be. Akakamaru and Sakuragi Sime also suffered a big loss unexpectedly, and were almost seriously injured by the burst of blood-dropping roses. Baga, you bastards, go kill him quickly. Seeing that Sakuragi Sime and others were still entangled with Gaozhou and the others, Mansai Musashi Gen finally couldn't help but angrily scolded them. Upon seeing this, Sakuragi Sime gritted his teeth and no longer cared about entangled with the madman Gaozhou. At the cost of being seriously injured by Gaozhou, he took Gaozhou's punch and rushed towards Su Tong quickly with the help of his strength. No. Block him. Gaozhou didn't expect Sakuragi Sime to do this. It was too late to catch up and he could only watch Sakuragi Sime rush towards Su Tong. Daya rushed out immediately, her 8 white tails swaying behind her, and her terrifying demonic aura was no less than that of a master at the pinnacle of Taoism. Get away! Sakuragi Sime was at the pinnacle of enlightenment, and he didn't even notice the 3 of them. However, he didn't want to get entangled with the 3 of them, and his figures scattered like countless cherry blossoms in an instant. Magical! Pieces of cherry blossoms were falling, making people feel a faint trance. Even the 3 of them couldn't help but feel dazed. When they came back to their senses, they saw the figure of Sakuragi Sime emerging among the countless cherry blossoms, with an extra sword stabbed straight into Su Tong's chest. Behead! A cold light flashed on the upper edge of the blade, and time seemed to freeze in an instant, and everyone's eyes were completely focused on this side. Puff! Blood sprayed in the air, but the result surprised everyone. Buzz buzz, bang. The half-cut Tachi blade spun around several times in mid-air before being stuck heavily on the ground. Sakuragi Kingming's eyes widened, looking at the long sword on his heart. He stiffly raised his head and looked at Su Tong, his face full of doubts and confusion, as if he didn't understand why this happened. Isn't this guy already in a critical state for releasing his skills? Isn't it true that people who entered the state in the past were unable to act? I didn't expect it. I haven't played it before. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Su Tong stared at Sakuragi Sime and winked mischievously. From the beginning to the end, he had no big moves to unleash, he was just chanting sutras and reciting Buddha's words, closing his eyes and resting his mind. As for the 15 minutes agreed with Chen Wangshen, go to hell. You. Sakuragi Sime wanted to curse, but the huge pain in his heart made him unable to speak anymore. He could only watch Su Tong pull out the Chunyang sword inserted into his chest, and his body lay weakly on the ground. This is your trick. Chen Wangshen narrowed his eyelids and stared at Su Tong with stern eyes. You also saw that I was forced to interrupt. How about, you insist a little longer? I'll do it again. Su Tong pointed to Sakuragi Sime's body on the ground with an innocent face and said. You're teasing me. Now Chen Wangshen was angry. Even if he was a fool, he should have understood that Su Tong was clearly trying to make fun of himself. I'm sorry, I never planned to let you survive from the beginning. The smile on Su Tong's face gradually faded. As he spoke, Su Tong stretched out his palm, and a small cauldron appeared in his hand. Originally, he planned to try to see if he could wait until Guoxiang, but now it seems that he may not be able to wait. Arrive. As he spoke, Su Tong stepped heavily on the ground with one foot, waved his hand and threw the small cauldron, 9 immortals divine refining formation. Buzz. In an instant, 9,000 script points evaporated, and the small cauldron was nourished by the script points. A brilliant divine light flashed from the simple cauldron, and for a moment it actually tore the cavern apart, revealing the reality outside. Space in. Boom, boom, boom. Thousands of feet of thunder broke through the sky, and a ray of light flew out of the small cauldron, transforming into a figure wearing a Taoist robe, holding a fly whisk, and holding the immortal cauldron in his hand. I have a moment to refine immortals, gods, and heaven. Seeing the world turned upside down and the void surrounding them blocked, fear finally showed on the faces of Chen Wangshen and Mansai Musashigen. You are crazy. If I die, you will die too. Su Tong, the face of Chen Wangshen, screamed. Su Tong looked unmoved. He knew what he was doing and the consequences of doing so. But he continued to destroy the 9 Immortals cauldron with an expressionless face, and suddenly a large number of script elements began to evaporate. The golden Taoist suddenly split into 9, turning into 9 figures, each holding his own. The 8 elements of heaven, earth, water, fire, wind, thunder, mountains, and lakes suddenly appeared out of thin air. Damn it, you're going to die, let's die together, we'll all perish together. Seeing that Su Tong was showing his true colors, Chen Wangshen opened his mouth and spit out a ball of black shadow. After the black shadow was spit out by him, he ignored the restraints of the 9 Immortals cauldron and rushed towards Su Tong quickly. Dia and the other 3 immediately stood in front of Su Tong and used secret techniques to obstruct him, but the black shadow was not affected at all and rushed directly into the luck above Su Tong's head. Just 2 bang-bang sounds were heard, and the 2 copper coins fell apart in pieces. For a moment, the aura of the 5 degenerates of heaven and man appeared on Su Tong's body again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 891. This guy really still has a hand. Realizing that his luck was declining rapidly, Su Tong was not worried at all. Instead, he burned the plot of the script crazily and forcibly destroyed the 9 Immortals cauldron to suppress Mansai Musashigen and Chen Wangshen. One tripod holds the world together. Time was limited, Su Tong did not dare to neglect at all, and activated the active skill of the 9 Immortals cauldron again. Active skill 1, one tripod holds the world together. It costs 300 script points. After activation, it can summon the immortal cauldron to forcibly suppress the opponent's luck. During the duration of the skill, script points will be consumed again every 3 minutes. Suddenly, the 9 Immortals cauldron fell, completely crushing their luck. At the same time, countless flying sand and rocks rolled in, forming gusts of wind that destroyed everything. Countless lightning and fire revolved around the gust of wind, and everything in its path was caught in it and refined into nothingness. At this time, the gap between them and Po Meng became apparent. Although Po Meng was embarrassed in the 9 Immortals cauldron, she was never really injured. But in front of them, Mansai Musashigen and Chen Wangshen were almost out of their wits. Their bodies were bursting with flesh and flesh. No matter how many tricks they used, they were unable to save themselves from the 9 Immortals cauldron. I saw Mansai Musashigen, the ancient god's arm sticking out from behind, trying to forcefully rush out with the power of the ancient god. But this was a formation that even Mengpo didn't break out of, so how could it be that Mansai Musashi was able to break out? Not only did he not succeed, but a strong wind directly blew his 3 arms into dried meat. Then a burst of sky fire almost burned half of his body to ashes. In comparison, Chen Wangshen was not much better. Not only were his legs worn away by the wind and sand, but also half of his head disappeared. Go to hell! Go to hell! Go to hell! Vicious curses continued to echo in Chen Wangshen's mouth. Every time a curse was uttered, a bloody wound would appear on Su Tong's body. There are more and more wounds, almost like being cut into pieces by 1,000 cuts. You can imagine how painful this process is. Seeing Su Tong's actions, those Japanese players felt their scalps numb. They were surprised that Su Tong's fighting power was so terrifying that he wanted to kill two gods in one breath. Even if he is as strong as Lord Mansai, he is helpless in the formation. Even if they want to support him, Sakuragi Simei's fate is still fresh in his mind. I am afraid no one has the courage, let alone Gaozhou. The others had quickly returned to Su Tong, not giving them any chance to take advantage of them. But no one was optimistic about Su Tong because his injuries were too serious. Chen Wangshen launched a curse crazily, turning Su Tong into a bloody man in just the blink of an eye. In addition, his body was filled with an ominous aura, and his body was aging rapidly. When Chen Wangshen was killed, this guy couldn't even hope to survive. They really perished together. Is this guy really desperate for his life? Even Akimaru was afraid of Su Tong's madness. He was a lunatic in the eyes of outsiders, but only he knew that he dared to act without any scruples only because his true body was in a safe place. The so-called crazy and brainless is just for others to see. And Su Tong's madness doesn't show off his feng shui on weekdays, but at critical moments, he is really life-threatening. In just 10 seconds, Mansai Musashigen could no longer hold on. A bolt of lightning struck down and split him open on the spot, revealing the 3 shrines hidden under the spine on his back. After 2 of the shrines were struck by lightning, they exploded on the spot. Countless black mists surged and erupted into a terrifying curse frenzy, enough to erase everything and turn it into dust. But in the formation, this terrible curse of destruction was completely blown away by a strong wind without causing even the slightest ripple. At this moment, Su Tong suddenly felt his heart tighten and his breathing began to become rapid. The 5 degenerations of heaven and man finally broke out. That face was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the strong feeling of powerlessness filled his whole body with the deathly aura of twilight years. This can only go so far. Su Tong counted the time in his mind. In fact, there was still enough time. If he held on for another half-minute, Mansai Musashigen and Chen Wangshen would die violently. But his body couldn't hold on for a moment. The flesh and blood decayed very quickly, and the body was almost decomposed. He's going to die. Akimaru and the others stared with wide eyes. The decline of the gods and humans was already irreversible. Even if the great goddess came, they could not save him. As long as Su Tong dies and Gaozhou and others are seriously injured, they will still have the upper hand in this battle. At that time, I will be the master of this script. Akimaru secretly rejoiced in his heart, he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He just didn't know why, but while he was excited, he always felt a slight pain in his heart. However, Akimaru's expectations were destined to be disappointed. Traveler's Seal. I saw Su Tong take a deep breath, and with a thought, he quickly retracted the 9 Immortals Cauldron and quickly activated the Traveler's Seal. The time around him quickly began to flow backwards, and in the blink of an eye, it was back to 1 minute and 20 seconds ago, the moment he threw the 9 Immortals Cauldron, and his steps had already left a mark of time. Because of Touch of Time, the original Traveler's Seal could only go back 1 minute, but now it can go back 2 minutes, and its practicality has been greatly enhanced several times. When he used the 1000 Machine God box to deal with Mansai Musashigen, he did not activate the Traveler's Seal, and he came here just for this moment. He knew that Chen Wangshen must have some reservations about him, but he didn't expect that he would actually retain the 5 declines of heaven and man. This thing is too terrifying. It is not the real 5 deceivers of heaven and man, but it also caused Su Tong to suffer a lot. When the 5 decays explode, there is almost no room for maneuver. The physical body will quickly decay and dry up. Even if you use the Great Sun Ruyi furnace to inject a steady stream of life force into the body, you cannot slow down this process. Once his body decays, even if he holds a treasure like yellow spring fruit, he may not be able to recover. But fortunately, the Traveler's Seal gave me another chance to completely get rid of the curse of the 5 declines of heaven and man. You're not dead yet. Seeing that Su Tong was not only not dead, but also completely freed from the 5 degenerations of heaven and man, Chen Wangshen became angry and continued to curse, opening new wounds on Su Tong's body. However, to Su Tong, these injuries were nothing more than drizzle. He summoned the great Sun Ruyi furnace, and a large amount of life essence poured into his body. The wounds healed quickly, and he didn't care about the damage Chen Wangshen caused to him. Not only that, a large amount of life force gushes out from the Ruyi furnace and pours down like a waterfall. Su Tong heals the injuries of Gaozhou, Gu Zibai, and Chang Liuju. At this moment, the faces of Akimaru and others suddenly became ugly. What all-rounder! Damn it, this guy is just cheating. It doesn't matter if they can fight and endure, but the key is that they can also perform group healing. Coupled with their team skills, they are simply a bunch of perverts. Why have I never heard of this team before? In the distance, Tai Xiao and others who were hiding in the corner and watching with cold eyes saw the scene and were all surprised by the fighting power of Su Tong's team. A team like this should have quickly become famous among players. Why, until now, no one has heard of the Kimin team? It always feels like they appear out of nowhere. But it doesn't matter. I believe that soon a team called Kimin will quickly become famous among the entire players. There is no way, this team is too perverted. This is without the support of top-level resources. If they can gain the favor and support of the 6th Regiment, I believe their rise will be even more astonishing. It seems that what the captain said before was right. Tai Xiao thought of Guo Xiang's evaluation of this team. He didn't agree with it at first, but now it seems that Guo Xiang's ideas are still too conservative. Some people are happy and some are worried. They thought that Su Tong would be crippled even if he didn't die, but they didn't expect that Su Tong could forcibly get rid of the 5 degenerations of heaven and man and come back strong. Isn't this cheating? At that moment, Akimaru and other Japanese players saw that something was wrong, so they decisively abandoned Mansai Musashi Gen and ran away. However, they only ran back a few steps before they had to stop. It's the captain. When the 3 Iron Hands saw the figure of the crossbar in front of Akimaru and the others, they suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Is it just that she is still their captain? Guo Xiang stepped on the mud on the ground and walked out of the Kowloon walled city. A strange atmosphere filled her body wherever she passed. But what surprised people even more was that where she walked, green vitality began to seep from the ground, bringing a sense of peace and tranquility to this desperate cave world. But in this greenery, it gives people an indescribable and strange feeling. Hua Weiniang, you are indeed back. Seeing the approaching figure, Chen Wangshen lay down on the ground with difficulty. Even though he knew that the dragon and the tiger were fighting, such a result still made Chen Wangshen feel unwilling. Huaniang is obviously the name of the deity who took away Guo Xiang's body. Su Tong didn't know this name, but coincidentally, Dia actually knew her whereabouts. Hey, it turns out it's her. Dia turned sideways to Su Tong and said, there was a time when people in the northeast believed in her, but then she disappeared and the believers also disappeared. It turns out that the so-called flower Sephora lady is a locust tree that has become a spirit. Only when 3 people with grievances hang themselves from the tree will she appear and help these people seek revenge. However, her origins are very ancient, and it is said to be recorded in Luohan Xiangzhongji in the Jin dynasty and Lifang's Taiping Guangji in the Song dynasty. De Ya told Hua Huaniang's heels. Captain, I'm late. What was unexpected at this time was that the pharmacist also hurried over. This guy, I thought he was missing. Seeing the pharmacist, Gu Zibai's expression suddenly dropped. This guy disappeared at the critical moment, and now he appears in a big way. He is even worse than Li Bo. The pharmacist noticed everyone's unkind looks and hurriedly explained, I entered the cave with you, but I didn't expect to be pulled out by her, but she didn't hurt me. As he spoke, he saw that Su Tong and others were still stained with blood, and hurriedly said, I'm here to help everyone heal their injuries. He took out a bottle of potion from the prop book. It seemed that in order to prevent Su Tong and the others from misunderstanding, he also showed the entry of the potion to everyone. Golden Saint Great Essence Liquid, rare. The extremely rare amplification liquid is a purified and mixed product of the blood of the sacred beast Golden Saint Lion and 22 kinds of centuries-old precious medicines. It can cause those around you to quickly recover all damage, permanently increase muscle resistance by 12%, resist attack by 12%, and gain a high-intensity hegemonic state for 1 hour. Good stuff. If you had taken it out earlier, my leg wouldn't have been broken. Gao Zhou looked at the content of the entry and couldn't help complaining with his eyes shining. Hey, it's not too late. The pharmacist raised the corner of his mouth and slammed the potion in his hand to the ground. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 892. Boom. In an instant, golden powder spilled out from the potion and floated in the air. Dots of golden powder stained Gao Zhou and the others, and the effect was immediately exerted. Waves of icy cold feeling hit. Not only everyone's physical fitness was greatly improved, but also everyone's body seemed to be plated with gold, forming a golden diaphragm. Is this the so-called high-intensity hegemonic state? Gao Zhou clenched his fist and smashed it to the ground. There was a loud rumble on the ground, and he easily made a crater. When he looked again, there wasn't even a drop of dust on his fist. In the hegemonic state, it is almost immune to most controls, reduces most physical damage, and even has extremely high resistance to damage such as magic. As for the high-intensity hegemonic body, its effect in this regard is even more exaggerated to an astonishing degree. If you had come earlier, I could have dealt with Sakuragi Sime by myself. Gao Zhou looked at the golden fist and could not help but wave it excitedly. Su Tong looked at the pharmacist in confusion, wondering what was going on in this guy's stomach. When Tai Xiao and others who were hiding in the Kowloon walled city in the distance saw this, they felt even more annoyed. If I had known that this boy was so capable, I would have recruited him into my team at all costs. At this time, Hana Yanyang had already arrived beside Mansai Musashi Gen. What a shame, you're the closest. Looking at Mansai Musashi Gen, who fell to the ground and was unable to move, Hana Yanyang shook her head regretfully. Mansai Musashi Gen is worthy of being the ancestor of Onmyo Academy. Even Hana Yanyang has to admire his amazing talent. Not only can he transplant the body of an ancient god, but he can also merge with the will of 3 gods. Being able to become a god in his physical body, if he is given a few more years, Mansai Musashi Gen may really be able to imitate those ancient gods and incorporate a part of the world into the cave sky, and become immortal and immortal from now on, becoming the master of this world. Mansai Musashi Gen ordered the corners of the demon's face to twitch, as if he wanted to say something, but at this moment, Hana Yanyang ignored him at all. Instead, she put her hand into Mansai Musashi Gen's back and pulled hard. Pull out the last shrine alive. Then he grabbed a small black man from the shrine and stuffed it into his mouth without saying a word. The villain waved his hands and struggled desperately, but the black and white teeth directly bit off its arm, and purple blood continued to flow out. Old Mother Yinshan, you have lived for so many years and have long been forgotten by the world. Even the old man Kishan has lost his soul. What are you still doing? Hua Weiniang said to herself while nibbling on the little man. Seeing this scene, both Akimaru and the others, as well as Su Tong and others, were silent for a moment. After Huaniang ate up the villain, she turned her eyes and looked sideways at Chen Wangshen lying on the ground. But before she could step forward, Su Tong stood in front of Hua Weiniang. The pure yang sword in his hand had been replaced by a black water dragon tooth. The jet-black blade emits a cold glimmer after being enhanced by the whetstone. You can't touch this person. After hearing Su Tong's words, Chen Wangshen, who was lying on the ground, was obviously relieved. On the side, Gao Zhou and others had quietly sealed off the surrounding area. I promised you before that I would help kill Genmansai Musashi. Now that I have done it, can we consider the follow-up? What would you like? Hua Weiniang raised her head and looked at Su Tong. Dragon Ball. Su Tong opened his palm generously. The eldest princess needed Dragon Balls, and one was simply not enough. If you want the Dragon Ball, you can, but I'm afraid you won't have the life to get it. Although Huaniang was threatening, she had a proud smile on her face. She tilted her head and looked at the pharmacist beside her. Is this the plan you mentioned? Everyone couldn't help but be startled when they heard this, and quickly turned their attention to the pharmacist. The pharmacist raised his hands with an innocent look on his face. Don't look at me, I didn't do anything and I don't have any plans. But after saying this, an intriguing smile appeared on the pharmacist's cheek. But as a pharmacist, it's not too much to administer some poison. After saying this, before Gao Zhou and others could react, the pharmacist had already activated his prop card skill, Drug-Induced Mania. Legendary Flask. The flask of the legendary pharmacist Ferio is rumored to be an alchemical work that subverts people's cognition. Passive Skill 1, Formula Alchemy. All alchemy skill effects add 2. Passive Skill 2, Felio's Blessing. The potions refined have a certain probability of being of the highest quality. Active Skill 1, Drug-Induced Mania. Spend 300 script points to mark a bottle of medicine. After marking, the medicine can have a subversive effect. Note, only medicines refined by yourself can be effective. Cooling time, 24 hours. Duration, based on the duration of the effective drug. Note, Angelica is a great tonic, but there is an antidote to the poison. If there is no tonic, what can be the antidote? The moment the skill was activated, everyone felt that their bodies began to get hotter and hotter, as if a ball of fire was coming out of their abdomens. Not only that, their originally golden hegemonic bodies were now even more brilliant, like a layer of flowing golden liquid. Firmly attached to their bodies, causing their limbs to stiffen little by little. You can personalize your grandson's life as much as you want. Sensing something was wrong, Gao Zhou stepped forward and grabbed the pharmacist by the collar, raised his fist and wanted to punch the guy. But the pharmacist didn't care at all. He looked at Gao Zhou in front of him with a sneer on his face. Instead, he raised his face to signal Gao Zhou to hit him. Hit me in the face. If you feel uncomfortable, you can stab me to death with a knife. When Gao Zhou heard this, he looked back at Su Tong and signaled Su Tong to kick the pharmacist out of the team. But the pharmacist seemed to have noticed Gao Zhou's thoughts. Instead of showing fear, he became even more arrogant. Look at what he did. If he kicks me out of the team, we will still be allies, and the alliance cannot be harmed. After the pharmacist finished speaking, a wild smile appeared on his face. Ha ha ha, you fool, have you forgotten how Shuigui died? I sold you once, and I can sell you a second time. Do you blame me for your lack of memory? Gao Zhou had been in the cave and didn't know the specific situation of the pharmacist. When he heard this sentence, he realized it and exclaimed, "It's you, you bastard." "Yes, it's me." The smile on the pharmacist's face faded and he pushed Gao Zhou's hand away. Gao Zhou wanted to reach out and grab him again. But at this time, his body became more and more stiff, and he gradually found that he was unable to move, as if he was sealed with a layer of gold. "Don't worry, what I give you is not poison, but good stuff. After being enhanced by my special skills, it won't cause any harm to you. But don't even think about moving a finger now." The pharmacist has a good understanding of his own skills, especially the precious bottle of Golden Saint Great Essence liquid. After going through the mania of skills, the effect of this bottle of Golden Saint Great Essence liquid will make everyone unable to move. Even if someone is as powerful as Su Tong, it is absolutely impossible to unlock this effect. This is the result he obtained after many experiments, and has been verified by other teams. Why, Wouldn't it be nice to join my team? Su Tong looked at the pharmacist with a confused expression. The pharmacist was silent for a moment. He wants us all dead and then he inherits the entire team. Chang Liuja suddenly spoke at the side, which touched the little Jeju in the pharmacist's heart. According to the rules, when the captain dies, the captain's authority will fall on the core members, determined by the order in which they join the team. If they all die and only one core member remains, then the pharmacist can naturally inherit the team as a core member, including the script points and treasures in the team warehouse. The skills of the pharmacist are exactly the auxiliary route that any team desires. It is easy to be directly pulled into the circle of core members by other teams. At critical moments, if all the members of your own team are sacrificed, you can naturally become the leader of this team. The pharmacist has done this trick so skillfully, it is obviously not the first time he has done it. Otherwise, how could he, an assistant, become a certified player? When Chang Wahen ruined his plan, the pharmacist's face suddenly became a little annoyed. On the side, Gao Zhou even shouted, "Boss, kick him out now." The corner of the pharmacist's mouth twitched and he stared at Gao Zhou with an unkind look. However, Su Tong smiled at this time. "Hey! Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha." His laughter became louder and louder, tears even appeared in the corners of his eyes, and he stared at the pharmacist's face and laughed. "Why are you laughing?" Su Tong's sudden laughter left the pharmacist at a loss. "I laugh at you for being stupid." Su Tong looked at the pharmacist with a bit of teasing in his eyes. "Don't worry, I will never kick you out, just stay in my team honestly." Now it was the pharmacist's turn to be confused. At this time, he noticed that not only Su Tong was laughing, but Gu Zibai was also smiling, looking at him with cold eyes, as if he was looking at a big fool. "You, quickly, kill them, kill them. Isn't this an opportunity? Kill him quickly." The pharmacist didn't know what they were laughing at, and he couldn't figure out what he had done wrong even after thinking about it. He became angry, pointed at Su Tong and others, and shouted to Hua Weiniang and Akimaru and others who were watching coldly. Several Japanese players were moved, but Akimaru stretched out his hand to stop them. "Idiot, do you want to die? This guy is just a clown, we can just watch." Akimaru's words made several Japanese players deeply agree. After all, Sakuragi Sime is dead, and Akimaru is the strongest person on their side. Even if this guy sometimes cheats his teammates, there is no denying what Akimaru said. Makes sense. Akimaru's voice was not loud, but everyone could hear it clearly, which caused even greater laughter. Gao Zhou even laughed and said, "Even the Japanese look down on you, you are really a failure in life." These words were so hurtful. Even a person like Yaeshi, who was completely shameless, was deeply stimulated by Gao Zhou's words. You. Hey, don't be so angry, I haven't started playing yet." Su Tong raised his head and continued to taunt. Akimaru's eyes were all red now, and he could only look at Hua Weiniang. "Don't forget, we had an agreement before." It turned out that when Su Tong brought Guo Xiang back to the Yuxing gang, the pharmacist had secretly contacted Hua Weiniang in the name of treatment. The two later made an agreement in private, and Hua Weiniang would naturally not break it. This contract. She held Chen Wangshen in her hand and walked to Su Tong. "Don't blame me, you have been cursed by it, so you are destined to accompany him on the road." "Oh," Su Tong stiffened his neck and said with an indifferent expression, "then you can give it a try, but if I die, you will never find that door."